EAGLES, Eagles.
Oh, yeah. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. One and all. Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Derek Gunn. I am Rob Ellis. What's up, Gunner? How you doing?
What is happening, my favorite stepbrother?
What's up, man? All good. What's up, Twiz? What's up, Sweenbowl, William Stark, Mr. Taz, John Dickerson, Tyler, Jim G, JM, Shante. Who else did I see here? Jeeb, Shantasia.
See some names you haven't seen before.
Some new faces, and we appreciate it. Jeeb, GS, XR, Anthony, what's up? What's up? Hope you guys are doing great. Hope everybody had an awesome weekend. Coach Marcus hanging out. Always good to see everybody. Mood Swing Bella, our girl.
Mood Swing in the house.
There she is. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you had a good weekend. And man, not like we're lacking for things to talk about, D-Gun. It was
I gotta ask
busy
you
weekend.
I got to ask you something real quick.
Yeah.
I've noticed something over the past several months, and when you don't know what I'm about to say, you get a little nervous. You get this sheepish looking grin on your face like, oh, geez, where's he going now?
Yes.
Is that an accurate assessment?
That is accurate. Yes. The top of the show, you never quite know what you're going to get with Derek Gunn. Hi, Peter. You never know what you're going to get. That's all I will say.
Well, you know what? I'm a little hurt by that. I try to throw you for a loop every now and then, but
true.
But it's not like I'm going to give you something that would embarrass you or make you uncomfortable.
I know it's from the heart, but I still don't know exactly where we're headed with this at times with you.
What the heck is that supposed to mean?
I think you know what it means. Twiz, what's up? Niners all day. Yeah. So actually that's part of the fun. The part of the fun of the show is the unknown. Yeah, I always say when I do sports talk radio, callers are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, as far as Gump would say.
So you're trying to say you're dealing with me is that what you're saying?
Correct. You are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, as far as once said. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank Kelly. What's up?
I take that as a compliment.
That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. That means you are full of surprises. It means you're spontaneous. It means that you keep us on our toes, which is what we like. What's up, AJ?
You have put me in a category of my family of what is wrong with you? Yes.
It's nice to for me to say that, because I'm usually the one that's said about. Usually it's what's wrong with you. Where do we need to, who do we need to have you see to straighten out this craziness? Yes. What's up, Jared?
John Dickerson says D Gunn's new personality is food swing fella compared to mood swing Bella.
I like that.
I like that. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. That is good. I like that. All right. So we had a busy night last night. More than 50,000 people went to Lincoln Financial Field for a practice. It was an hour, 38 minutes. What's up, Barbara Carroll? Hour and 38 minutes. Great attendance. A Cowboys fan got booted out, I think, at one point, which was always good. That's never a dull moment, but fans got to see. Unfortunately, it's about the only time you can really see, unless you're part of a select group that goes to the everyday practice.
Right.
So they did get a chance. Tyler, what's up? You get a chance to see it out there. So if anybody in the chat or anybody listening or streaming was there last night and you want to give us your impressions of what you saw, we will do that. That's for sure. But it was a busy day yesterday prior to the open practice. They cut Davion Taylor, Derek, who was a third. No, I've never made an impact. Let's face it. Third round pick who just, it was a pick based on sort of projection because he didn't play a ton in high school. If you remember, I don't know what denomination it was, but his religious beliefs precluded him from playing on Friday nights. And then he played at Colorado, and then, it just never quite worked out here for whatever reason. So that was sort of the first ball to drop here. And then after that, they went out and signed Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham to contracts to 1-year deals. And both guys were they didn't participate in practice, but they were at practice last night. You're talking about guys with a lot of experience, both of them. They started a lot of games in the league. Miles Jack of late with Pittsburgh, his early years with Jacksonville. Of course, Zach Cunningham has been a Titan, a Texan. I'm sure I'm missing something else, but that's where he's been of late. But you talk about guys who have started a lot of football games in their lives. But here's my question for you, Derek.
Yes, Mr. Ellis.
Other than Davion Taylor, I don't think any of us really had. Let's be real.
I thought he'd be cut last year, to be honest.
Right. So we didn't really think he was going to be an impact, okay, to say the least.
No.
What does that tell you about the linebacking situation for the Eagles, and who should be worried most about their gig, so to speak?
Well, like we all knew, the linebacking is the weak link on this team. When you start chronologically stacking the weakest to the strongest positions on this Eagles team, the linebacking core definitely is the weak link on this team. And I've said it a number of times, and we talked about it several times last week. I'm not so sure Nicholas Morrow is going to be the starting will linebacker. Christian Ellis, who is a special teams player for them and had show flashes, is much bigger. And Morrow 6'1", 215, Ellis 6'3", 235. Then you go out and you get another linebacker 6'1", 245, and another linebacker 6'3", 230. They need some thump in the linebacking core. And I'm not saying that they're closely watching Nakobe Dean as well. Yep. Nakobe Dean is yet to prove himself, but Nakobe Dean is also a lighter size linebacker. Now, granted, there's some lighter linebackers weight-wise in the NFL that have been Pro Bowl players. Mm-hmm. And it's not fair to say, Nakobe Dean's in trouble. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they felt they needed an upgrade. And we don't know if these guys are upgrades. Yes, they have been in the league for a while. But as we talked about in the show, my concern is, Rob, when it comes to certain teams that give up on certain players quickly, especially certain positions, the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, what are we missing and why? Prime example, okay? Miles Jack, coming out of going into the draft, he was considered the number one linebacker in the draft, but he was the fifth linebacker taken because of a degenerative knee issue.
Yep.
And if you look at his career, he's had the knee issues his entire career, which has negated him from maybe doing some great things. He was in Pittsburgh last year. Pittsburgh is linebacker U, plain and simple.
Yep.
Pittsburgh gave up on him after 1 year, and I want to know why. Yep. And I don't know if we'll ever know that answer. Yep. And I'm not saying maybe he just didn't fit into the Steelers linebacking culture there. Yep. Maybe he can thrive here. They went out last year during the season. It took them X amount of games into the season to identify they needed to get bigger and stouter in the trenches. They go out and get in Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph. Okay, and for the most part, that worked out fine. Now all of a sudden they go out and get not one but two bigger linebackers. Why? See, and that question is going to plague me until I see these guys fit in a Sean Desai, Matt Patricia's scheme. It looks good on paper right now, but there's a reason why these guys have been available up to this point, and I want to know why.
Yeah, it would seem to be more of an issue of Nicholas Morrow at the will spot than the on the ball linebacker spot with the Nakobe Dean. But I think what this tells you is no one's safe. No one's safe here. Let's face it, Nakobe's either been a little bit nicked up, and it's not anything serious. He's been a little nicked up, and he hasn't really shown out too much when he's been on the field. I get it. It's only practice, and he may be one of those green light guys where just when it gets real is when he takes over. But that, and it sounds like there's been a lot of, and we'll talk to Chris Franklin. Chris Franklin's joining us coming up at 12:30, and he was there last night. He's there every single day. He's got boots on the ground. But, it sounds like there's been a lot of Christian Ellis coming in there for Nicholas Morrow, which doesn't necessarily bode well for him either. What's up, Robert? What is up,
And,
Fitness Rebel?
And I'm gonna give props to where did I just see it here? Dank Green Kelly Burrito. The Panthers gave up on Hassan Reddick after 1 year. Look what he did here.
Right.
Jonathan Gannon. Arizona gave up on him after a double-digit season. He goes to Carolina for 1 year, double-digit season. He comes here, double-digit sack season. So that's a valid point. That's a valid point. But sometimes certain players don't fit in one scheme. They either flourish or flounder in another scheme. All I'm saying is it looks good on paper. I have to see it in practicality before I can make a final determination. It looks good now. Now, let's see. Obviously, they're going to be on a crash course in terms of getting up to speed and in terms of what is expected of them in this defense. But I think it's interesting, and it's going to be great conversation through the preseason games, through the final cuts, to see exactly what Cunningham and Miles Jack mean to this team.
Yeah.
I'm not dissing either one of them.
Mm-hmm.
They may turn out to be Pro Bowl linebackers in a Sean Desai defense. We don't know.
Right.
I'm just saying it's always interesting. Especially at Cunningham. Cunningham hasn't had the history of injuries the way Miles Jack has.
I don't think he's performed as well of late as Jack has either, in fairness. Look, I think this doesn't even mean they're done.
No.
They could see Jack out there, and by the way, Nicholas Morrow has no guaranteed money. So
tells you all you need to know.
Right. So he may not even make the team if they don't like what they're seeing. I don't think it'll be that extreme, but if they don't like what they're seeing out of Jack and Cunningham, these are both very low money deals, and I'm sure nothing's guaranteed to them either. My point is they may not be done. They may watch these guys play for a couple, what do we have, 3 weeks or whatever of training camp and say, I'm not happy with this and make a trade. This was just two guys you grabbed off the street. You didn't have to give anything up for. So look, this is a work in progress, and we know that. We know Howie's history, and we know Nick's history. They will not sit around if they're unhappy with what a position is looking like. So, I don't think this is nothing to see here. Keep moving along. I think it tells you, and I know they're a little bit banged up, and some depth guys are hurt, but still, I think there's a little bit more to this, that they're not loving the way the linebacker play has been thus far.
When you take into fact, and I brought this up when we had Ray Didinger on Friday, the fact that the losing NFC team in a Super Bowl has not returned the next year since the Minnesota Vikings did it back in 74, 75. That's a telling tale, and it tells you how difficult it is just to get back there. Yeah. It also tells you that even though this team has 7 new faces on defense, Howie Roseman is beating the bush, doing everything that he can to try to make that product on defense that much better, that much stronger. And maybe one of these guys or both of these guys is that missing link on the defense. We still have question marks in the back end on the safety position. But then again, we talk about this all the time. When you've had the kind of success this team had last year, every buzzard circling trying to pick off your carcass. And we saw it happen. Right. Coaching staff as well as players. Now you've got to rebuild. And because it looked one way in April and May, as Howie tells us every year and shows us every year, doesn't necessarily mean that's the way it's going to look in August, September, October. Mm-hmm. He's always thinking, always moving. He's constantly having conversations with his coaches. And if his coaches tell him, you know what, Howie, we could get a little different. I need something a little different, a little bigger, a little faster laterally. Howie's going to move heaven and earth to try to make it happen.
Totally. And that's one of the things you love. You have an uber aggressive general manager. You have a guy who will not look. They know they're on the precipice of winning a Super Bowl last year. It is full speed ahead. This is not a rebuild. This isn't like if you're rebuilding this thing, you just throw young kids out there and you see what happens. Who cares? No, you're trying to win right now. This is not learn on the job. You don't have that kind of luxury. These guys are going to have to be up to speed really fast and really prove it. And if they don't, then somebody else will be in there. Trust me when I tell you that. I don't care where Nakobe Dean was drafted. I know he was a 3rd-round pick. They just cut a 3rd-round pick and Davion Taylor. So you got to perform. And if you don't perform, none of this will matter. That's for sure. I can guarantee you that. That job is not a given. So we'll talk about that. We'll get a little bit more, and we're going to get full impressions of what the open practice looked like. I'll just give you one, Derek, that I'm a little concerned with.
Okay.
Everything I'm reading about Marcus Mariota in terms of throwing the football, not running the ball, but throwing the football. And it hasn't been good in practice. It wasn't good last night either. When you have somebody like Jalen Hurts who will take off with the football, there's always that risk that he could go down. I don't think he's reckless, but it's the NFL. And you get tackled the wrong way and stuff happens.
Right.
You need him for a few games, and you're in one of these, dogfight kind of games that you could be in after the bye week. I don't know that Mariota can go toe for toe with some of these big boys that he might be facing if you have to either mount a comeback or you're in a back and forth kind of game. I wonder about it.
But the Eagles needed a backup quarterback, right?
They did.
Okay. When you looked at who was out there in the open market, it was the best available, Rob. I mean, that tells you how thin the backup market really is, you know. And that's not a knock against Mariota.
Yeah.
It's
the reality.
It's the reality of what it is.
The drop off from 1s to 2s is gigantic.
Yes. And the fact that he continues to struggle today, well, you still have a month before you hit the ground running. Okay. And I'm not assuming that we're going to need to see a Mariota early in the season.
Yeah.
You know, if Jalen Hurts stays the course, he's going to be fine all the season. We don't have to worry about seeing a Mariota. But you needed a backup. You needed somebody who's been around the block a few times.
Yeah.
And when you and look at how he goes about his business. Okay. Mariota's out of a job, right? He wants to stay in the game. You're going to take less money, especially if you don't have many suitors out there. Mm-hmm. And if Howie wants you bad enough, he's going to pay you a little bit more to come here. And in Mariota's situation, why wouldn't you want to come to the team that got so close to winning a Super Bowl? If you can't go back up on the team that won the Super Bowl, what's the next best option? Go to the team that came close to winning the Super Bowl because they're in a good position to possibly get back there again. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you want that scenario?
No, I think he absolutely would want to be here. I just hope that he can, perform when called upon if necessary. That's what worries me about him. But look, again, we're talking about a backup quarterback, and you could apply that to almost every NFL team. If you get to that point and it's a backup, it's not going to matter anyway. You're going to be in big, big trouble. All right, so we will talk about it at 12:30. Also, Phillies over the weekend. They take 2 of 3 from Kansas City. Derek, it was an ugly one Friday.
Yep.
In terms of the way that they played. But something really unique.
This just in. Aaron Nola gave up 2 more home runs.
I know. Oh, my God. Ugh. But something really unique, special, and I think something that really hit home with the players happened on Friday with the ovations, the standing ovations for Trey Turner. Now, he didn't have what you call a big-time game on Friday. He did have an RBI single.
Right.
But you saw the same kind of response from the fan base on Saturday, and he himself responded with a home run and a double. I want to say 6 RBIs, whatever it was, 4 RBIs, sorry, and 2 gems in the field. 2 balls where he really picked in the field.
Yep.
Let me start there. What did you think about the whole thing? And clearly you hear Bryce Harper, you hear what Trey Turner said, you heard what Rob Thompson said. They loved it. What did you think about the standing ovations?
I've been here over 25 years. I've never been prouder of the Philadelphia fan base. From Bryce Harper's perspective, especially coming off that road trip, it's got to be swirling in the back of your mind. What am I going to hear when I step to the plate? The fact that these fans got up and gave this man a standing ovation, letting them know that they're behind you 100%. You know how mind settling that is, just to go out there and try to do your job? He's been very honest and open about the struggles he's endured all season long. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he's read the press clips. There are people up and down social media and in the media that have chastised him for being at the top of the league in terms of errors, nowhere near the batting average and the run production people expected him to produce. And this fan base on Friday and Saturday went out there and gave this man a standing ovation to let him know, look, we are with you. And I think that helped him relax in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. I mean, he had 3 consecutive at-bats between Saturday and Sunday where they were double base hits.
Yeah, hard. Yeah, hard hit balls. Yep.
Hard hit balls, Yep.
Yep.
And, you just mentioned he made 2 great plays in the field. He might have booted one of those plays before Saturday. We can't expect him. We're waiting to see which ball he's going to boot. He played a solid weekend.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time we can say he's played a solid weekend. Do you remember saying that?
No, I can't remember. It doesn't feel like he's put like an entire series together. Maybe all year. I mean, certainly none of them memorable.
No.
For sure.
It was back in early May or something.
Yeah. Here's what I think is interesting, like at least for me. There was a precedent last year with Bohm. And it worked. But I think a couple things have to happen along the way, Derek.
Yeah.
You need to be accountable.
Yep.
Bohm made his mistakes, said what he said after the game, stood up.
Yep.
My bad. I'm frustrated. I have to fix this. Fixed it. The rest is history. The guy's been awesome for them.
Yep.
Turner, to his credit, has never once pointed a finger, gave you an excuse. In fact, said the other day, I blew the game. He said, I blew the game for us. Period.
Yep.
So at every stop, he's owned it. You also, there's a human party that looks at the guy and you're like, boy, this guy's a mess right now. You could just see it. He was like lost, his eyes. You could just see it in his eyes. So I think with all of that backdrop, like if he was just some jerk who was like, what do you want me to do, man? Yeah, I'm doing everything I can. It's hard playing in Philadelphia. Like that doesn't happen if you're not accountable. So I think it was a great example of the city having some empathy and trying an approach that was new, and the player really being appreciative. And it wasn't just him, it was his teammates too, Derek. And they really all were like, wow, this is cool. And I think all those things, all those sort of good vibes that were generated helped this guy. I really believe it helped this guy.
Go back to Bohm for just a moment. When he got caught, he booted a ball at third base in 2022. Yep. And did Mike's catch him? What did he say under his breath about Philadelphia? What did he say?
I hate this place or something.
I hate this town. Okay. And then came out and said, that's on me. A young player. So he came and the fans jumped behind him.
Mm-hmm.
They could have jumped down his throat. We've seen it. We've seen this fan base rip players apart. Okay.
Yeah.
They could have jumped down. The fact that he owned the mistake, they rallied. That's what he said. I effing hate this place. Okay.
Yep.
They rallied around him.
Yep.
And ever since then, you're right. He smoothed out his game. Mm-hmm. And look at the way he's playing now.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Turner. See, these players, if the players need to understand, if you own your mess, Philadelphia will forgive you for that. Yeah. Now, they may still boo you at times, but because you're a stand-up guy, you should know this. You're from here.
Yeah.
If you're a stand-up guy, they're going to back you. They're going to give you your grace period. And what Trey Turner did this weekend is the start of the Trey Turner that we've been waiting to see all season long.
I think we have seen it in other ways too, in other circumstances too. I know how it's sort of been spun now, but Markelle Fultz got like almost unconditional support when he was here. People rooting him on when he would shoot a jump shot or a free throw.
Yeah.
Because they knew he was going through something. Ben Simmons, up until the end when it got ugly, people still had this guy's back. You remember he would make a free throw. They would go crazy over it because they were trying to get him going. So there is an element of like support that you get here that is unique and is I think counter to what the reputation is nationally, at least. The rep nationally is, they're just cretins. They're the worst, blah, 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 blah. And I don't think that's the case, but you're right, Derek. If you're not accountable, you don't give then you're going to get killed. Exactly. You will get killed.
Exactly.
And that if the other pieces are in place, then I think, things can change. Now, look, Turner goes on an 0 for 30 streak. Trust me, the standing ovations are going to stop at some point. But it was just in a time and a moment. They were back home and that the fans gave the guy a little bit of support. And I'm good with it. Like, I understand there's a line at some point that you draw. You can't do it every game, etc. And I know some people will say, well, why don't you do it for Schwarber? He was sticking up the joint until yesterday. Why don't you do it for Nola? Because first of all, do you treat all your kids the same way?
No.
I don't.
No.
Right? Everybody's different. Those guys have been here for a while. You were trying to show a guy who was a newcomer a little bit of love. And I think it worked. Let me show you this. So this was with Trey Turner or the Phillies. I'm not sure exactly who decided to do this, but check out these. These are billboards around the city. And that's Turner in between the U and the Philly. So thank you, Philly. And that's Trey Turner there. But that to me, like any kind of, showing of gratitude like that.
Yes.
Tells you something about this person or this team.
Whether it was the Phillies, whether it was Trey Turner's representative taking the initiative, whether it was Trey, that's a great marketing ploy right there. The fan base let you know that they're still behind you. And instead of waiting until the end of the season, you jumped on it right away to thank Philadelphia. They embrace stuff like this, dude.
Yep.
Trey Turner is going to Trey Turner may continue to struggle, but the two are meshed now. They're entwined now. It's a marriage. It's a marriage. This is not going to be a quick marriage. They understand the potential of this guy. They've seen it when he's played elsewhere. They saw it in the World Baseball Classic. They know what he could possibly do. And you got to keep your fingers crossed and hope that he comes out of this at the most strategic time. As these teams continue to jockey for a position for the wild card spot, and right now the Phillies are in that prime, you're going to need Trey Turner. They understand it's going to be all hands on deck, and fans are hoping that this team just wakes up offensively and just takes off in September like they should. You know, I said it last week, and I'll say it again. When you stack this Phillies lineup against every other lineup they're in contention for a wild card spot with, there's no other team in wild card contention that can match the Phillies from 1 through 9 in a batting order, and that includes Kyle Schwarber, who's hitting below the Mendoza line. He's still, when he hits a home run, it's majestic. You know,
agreed. Yeah, agreed. And he had a big day yesterday. Yep, and that's
not the typical leadoff guy, but man, does he provide a pop in the front of that lineup.
And that's one of the takeaways is not only just like all of Harper had a big weekend. Schwarber yesterday, Castellanos went yard yesterday. Turner, all the guys we've been screaming about. You know, it can't just be Stott and it can't just be Bohm. Well, you guys got to start pulling your weight. So they all pulled their weight. If there's any takeaway from the series, yes, you won 2 out of 3, but it's also that those guys look like they're on the right path now. So
and now they've lost Marsh for a while.
Right. And that was tough. He went into that thing hard. But the good thing is there's nothing structurally wrong. It's just it's a deep bruise, and he's swollen and he's sore, and he's I think it'll be about 2 weeks, which is could have been worse, for sure.
But if the front of the order starts hitting the ball the way they hit this weekend, as much as I'm a big Marsh Stott, Bone fan, But if those other guys, the big money guys, start hitting like this on a consistent basis, and you know what, Marsh, if you need more than 2 weeks, take your time. If these other guys are holding their weight, if it's 3 weeks, take your time so you can get ready for the stretch run.
I agree with you. All right, let's get a timeout. We have Chris Franklin from NJ.com, who was at Eagles open practice last night. We will discuss that with Chris and just everything that he's seen thus far through training camp, and we'll certainly talk to him about the Eagles making the linebacker move. So let's get a timeout. We'll come back with Chris. We'll continue with the Eagles discussion. He's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take. Let's hit the like button as well, friends, if we could. All right, I'm going to tell you about Bravo Pizza. I was in there on Thursday night. Got the wings and the fries. Killers. Just absolute killers. And I'm thrilled that they're a part of the show, part of the channel. Bravo Pizza of Havertown. I've been going there since I was a kid. They've been in business since 1985. You got Alex and the crew in there just cranking out the most fresh, best food possible. All right. They have 20 different styles of pizza. They have slices to go, specialized pizza the way that you want it. And they don't just have pizza, fresh pasta, sandwiches, wraps, wings, salads. Bravo Pizza of Havertown is also committed to the community. They have fundraisers for charities, for schools, for little leagues, where the proceeds go to those organizations. You could follow them at the Bravo Pizza of Havertown on Instagram and Facebook for daily specials and promotions. They're at 1305 Westchester Pike, Manoa Shopping Center in Havertown. 1305 Westchester Pike, Manoa Shopping Center, Havertown. Give them a call, 610-446-3810. 610-446-3810, Bravo Pizza of Havertown.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Up, and go Birds.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right, did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES. Eagles.
All right. Happy Monday. Welcome back. Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis hanging out with you, talking Eagles. And we will continue to do so with our next guest who covers the Birds on a daily basis. He is the beat writer for NJ.com. You can follow him on Twitter at @CFranklin News. And he was down at the link last night. Chris, what's up, my man? How you doing?
Doing great. It's finally here. We actually got to see the link for the first time in months, and yeah, I felt home. I felt like I was home. It was good.
It's comforting, yes. And we actually have a game in 5 days, which is, even harder to fathom. But let's start with you. Just give me, Chris, whether you want to go fans, whether you want to go something that stood out positive, negative, something weird that caught your eye, whatever. Give me some impressions of last night from what you saw.
I think I'll start with fans because I thought it was just funny seeing that it felt like they were in midseason form. I mean, you had the guy in section 115 holding up the Cowboys towel. You saw another fan on the Eagle sideline side wearing the Justin Tuck jersey, and then everybody just cascading booze upon him. So it felt like they were in midseason form. I thought offensively, I thought that was one of the more sluggish practices, probably the most sluggish practices they had all camp. I think there's some things they would like to take back. I don't know if it was like they're just they're in the moment, getting used to everything, seeing the crowds and everything. So that was a little bit. But overall, I feel like it was just good that everybody got back. Like some of these guys got to see the experiences. And then we also got to see Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham for the first time. We got to see them line up. So I thought there was a lot going on in that one day, but it was pretty cool.
Nice. Gunner, you muted, bud.
Yeah.
I haven't had to say it in a long time.
Oh,
The streak is
I tried to beat
over.
you to it. I
The
tried.
streak
Silent count? You're going silent count there?
Oh,
Hey, Chris, is it true Sirianni kind of lost it with some of the players on offense, or his offense in general? Do you get
he's gotten heated. I think he's gotten heated. I think every practice. So they had one moment or something because he's been looking at defense. I remember earlier on, he's always like when it comes to because he's him in details. Well, every coach details, but him, especially in the situation moments. It's become a regular occurrence. Like it's nothing like I think the players know it too. It's nothing like, oh my God, he yelled at them. Whoa! It's one of those things that they're like. I mean, very wrong. When you see he's going after your starting quarterback, your franchise guy just paid $200 million. At first, you're like, oh, but it's how these guys react afterwards. Is if they take it constructively and get better from after that, or start sulking. I haven't seen anybody start sulking or anything like that. So it's one of the things that he just don't do the pre-snap penalties. He'll probably be on your good side.
Well, Chris, let you just mention it. We talked about it last segment, so let's talk about the additions here. And we've seen them do this before in camp for sure. But Miles Jack, Zach Cunningham, is that just they legitimately don't have a lot of depth there? N'Kobe's still dealing with the ankle. Not a lot to read into it, or read into it. because nobody's really shown much here, frankly. And you're there every single day. But you tell me, how do you look at these additions?
I think it's a little bit of both because I know they're low on numbers with things, but when you start having like Nolan Smith having to play off the ball, you have Janarius Robinson starting to line up a couple of times like an off the ball. You see this like I know you tinker a lot early on, but as over time you see that more and more. It's like there's something there. So they needed somebody I think over with that because I just think this needs some more veteran presence in that linebacker room because you had a lot of guys besides Morrow, who's in his 6th season. You have Sean Bradley, who's his 4th season. After that, everybody else like 2 years or drafted rookie. So you need some veterans to start pointing stuff out because we all know the size system. You know, it's starting to be that man match, and it's a lot of communication. You have to see a lot of stuff and anticipate what the offense is going to do with the motions and everything else. So you need some veteran guys back there to help them out. And I think I'm very intrigued by Cunningham in this system as opposed to Jack. I think when you look at his ability to play that will spot next to Dean, I think he can play well and help guide him along when he sees this. Say, hey, I see this. I hope you see this too, and help him out that way.
Okay.
Are you surprised they let Taylor go? Because I thought he should have been gone last year. So I'm not really surprised. And I hate to say that, but I just thought that he was never going to cut it here.
I thought, especially when they brought back. I know they didn't have DJ Elliott here just to help Davion Taylor. But I thought, getting a familiar voice in there would help him out along the way. And I think when you look at his ability, if anything, more as a special teams guy or a developmental guy, but he's can't be a developmental guy being 2020. He can't be like that. So when you see that, I wasn't surprised. I think he was going to cut anyway. But at the same time, I would seriously not be surprised if he's back in some shape or form on a practice squad by week 1. I really wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
Chris, let me go back to Dean then. Just what I keep hearing from people who are there every day, I know you are, is hasn't looked bad, but just hasn't really popped. Is that an apt description of what it's been so far? And is that because he's thinking too much out there, or is it just the way it's gone? He just hasn't really shown a lot.
I think it's the way it's going, and especially coverage. I thought at least a couple of times, I think in coverage, I wanted to see him like at least not so much. You don't have to it'd be nice to see some interceptions, but at least get to be the pass deflections because a lot of times they've been completing a lot of stuff underneath, and you want to limit them. Okay, I get that, but I want to see him be a little more aggressive in the pass game. That's personally for me, but I think it's more with things like I don't know if he needs to feel like a real game situation where he's able to really truly flow through the ball and try to get in there, squeeze into where the gap's going to be, and then try to make a tackle that way. I don't know if it's that as well too. So I wouldn't put that past him, but he's somebody I want to see like take it up to another level in terms of coverage and everything else. I think he's calling the right defenses. I think when he's seen what he's seen, he's done a good job with that. It's just a matter of in trying to make some more bigger plays in that second level.
When I look at Cunningham, the thing that intrigues me about him is where are you going to play him? You said he could be a prime candidate for that will spot, but you look at wherever else he's played both inside and outside. He's played in the 3-4 and he's played in the 4-3. Now, the Eagles, the way their linebacking core stacked up initially was you had 2 linebackers in Morrow and Dean who were both under 220 pounds. Now they go out and get 2 linebackers that were 245 and 230 plus. It seems to me they want to get a little stouter also, especially with the run defense. I think they still view the run defense as being susceptible, and a lot of times you need that linebacker to be able to come up and provide that thump.
Yeah, especially if they go nickel. I mean, if I'm looking at them, especially how many times you see the three wide receiver things come out, that's one of the things where I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't be surprised to see him if one of those guys is like the dime back here or there once in a while. Because if I'm running inside, if I'm spreading you out and I'm running inside between the tackles, yeah, you can wear that. That's how you can ball control this. Keep that Eagles offense on the side. You ball control. I think when you have one of these guys out there, if they're out there with Dean, I think one of the sides gives you a little bit more of a physical presence. Now, either one of these guys, either Jack or Cunningham, they're not world beaters when it comes to coverage. They'll handle their own. You're not going to be like, wow, this guy should be all pro because he can do his pass defense or anything like that. But they'll be adequate when it comes to there. But yeah, when you go to nickel, I think that's a concern a little bit, especially with Morrow.
That feels like a T-shirt. They'll be adequate. Yes, let's go. Adequacy.
Here's what I said.
Yes.
Here's my Kelly Green jersey for them. Yes.
Gonna run through a wall. All right, Chris. Who I mentioned this with Gunnar earlier. Maybe I'm just whatever. It's a good thing because I'm going to like backups now. But it seems that Mariota's really had a tough time in the passing game in terms of just basic throws. We know he's got the wheels, but what are you seeing there from him?
It's weird because I look at him. It seems like he goes 1, 2, and then run. Does a 1, 2, 1 progression, 2 progression, run. And I look at the way that he's the touches just seems not to be there on his passes. There's signs some of these guys are open and there've been tight windows to get them, but they've been open, and he's just missing them. He's overthrowing them especially towards the sideline. And to me, I think that's one of those things where you feel settled, especially if you're in the pocket and you just your feet. If you're just your feet calm and everything else, you throw it out that way. It feels like I just feel like he's just rolling when he's scrambling, rolling around, not doing this. He's not being as accurate. Doesn't help when the second team center, when the snaps are going low and they're fumbled too and everything else. But I wish I saw a better version of him at this moment right now, because I think there's still a lot more that he could do. It's for me, I'm still a little concerned with him back there if something were to happen to Hurts.
I had mentioned this to Rob earlier, and we talked about, obviously the show quarterback gave a lot of insight into Mariota's demise down in Atlanta. And I mentioned to Rob in the first segment that when the Eagles decided on Mariota, think about what was out there. There was not much out. There's not much out there in the way of backup quarterbacks. They needed a backup. Minshew's gone. He was the best of the lot. At least he has NFL experience. I'm not saying that's going to transition to him if he has success here if something happens to Hurts, but he was the best available. And why wouldn't you want to come to the team? If you can't go to the team that won the Super Bowl, what's the next best option? Go to the team that came close to winning the Super Bowl. and thank goodness he's having these issues now instead of September, October. Hopefully he can iron it out. But I do think there is some value for Mariota if he can get his passing game up to par with his running game.
And there's some things that can go into it as long as you learn a new system and it's being different from the one you're running. This system's not run by a lot of people. I'd be surprised if there's another one that has one like this, but it's unique. And so some of the progressions change, but even when it comes to basic slants, dig routes, makeable throws, he's just not hitting them at all. He needs to improve ASAP.
Interesting. All right, let's go to the positive here. Give me your impressions. I know I again, from what I was seeing last night, it looked like he was okay, solid. But Jalen overall, I think, other than maybe Thursday, has had a pretty good camp thus far, Chris.
Yeah, he only had the one. That was his first interception. I think he was trying to just throw it to try to do some stuff to say, hey, what if? Let me just see this. And he looks in rhythm. And like in a commercial, we talk about Mariota, and it was like he's not comfortable with that. Jalen's just sitting back in the pocket, and even when he is rolling out, he just looks sure he's getting the ball in the right areas to get him in catchable balls for receivers to make plays. Especially, I've seen when it comes to Brown and Devonta Smith on those sideline routes, it's just automatically clicking now. They just know, like, hey, you know what? You get this ball here, I'm probably going to have a high chance I'm going to make this play, even with defenders jump. I saw when it came to Josh Jobe, who's surprising me a little bit how well he's covered so far. Being that close on Devonta Smith, and Hurts still fitting the ball inside there and making the play. I look at that and I see that he's really mature. He's continuing to mature as a passer, and I think especially the third year as a starter in the system getting as many reps, I think we're legitimately. I know he's a runner-up. I legitimately think he has a very, very good shot to win the MVP this year. I really, truly do.
Wow. Okay,
Chris. Knowing Howie like I know Howie, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination he's done. He's still wheeling and dealing somewhere. From your perspective, what's another area of concern that Howie could address?
I think they can look at the safety spot. Mm-hmm. I think there's just to get another veteran, a couple veteran eyes back there. They haven't been too bad. I mean, they've been mixing and matching, trying to find combinations left or right. We've seen Kayvon Wallace getting first team reps, Terrell Edmonds getting down there, Reed as well. And then you still have Sidney Brown still young. And to me, I don't want to rush Brown because playing safety is very tough, especially as a rookie, because you got to worry about your inside assignments as opposed to just being a corner on the outside. So I look at them. I wouldn't be surprised that one. And to me, you have, especially before that last week, before training camp's over, if you want to dangle one of those running backs out there, if you have a good idea which one of those 5 running backs you're going to move on from, why not dangle one of them, try to get that back? I mean, I'm looking at, if I'm the advanced team, I'm looking at the Indianapolis Colts to see what they have, that somebody who may be standout. I know it's going to be tough there, but the running back issues they're having out there. Maybe throw one of those guys out there, see if they have somebody who's promising. You may be under control for a week, for a year or two, and who knows? Maybe you find a diamond in the rough that way. But yeah, safety for me is the spot.
Chris, how have Carter and Davis looked on the interior?
Davis, to me, is like he's gotten a little bit better, especially in the past game. They were running a lot 4-man defensive line fronts, and I was like, all right, this is just, I guess, try to see that. And
last night, right? Sweat, Davis, Cox, and Reddick to start, right?
Yeah. So you're looking at them, and I like the way he's been able to get 2 guys drawn to him, which you want to see. I mean, you want him to be that guy to take up 2 guys to free up more one-on-one opportunities. So I like what you see out of him. Carter, he's going through his rookie stuff right now. You can tell, like, it's almost like he's still thinking his way through, like, okay, I have to look at this assignment, then this assignment, and then slows his way. This was like a step slower because he's still processing. And once he gets used to it, more comfortable with his assignments and everything else, I think you'll start to see his athleticism take over a little more. But he's going through. I think he's going through his rookie beginnings and initiation stuff right now.
Who do you think is going to emerge as the number 2 tight end behind Goddard? Is it Arnold, Calcaterra, Stoll? Who is it?
Oh, they need Stoll. This is the second one, because when you look at the blocking aspect of it, I think you need another guy there, because I know it's a passing league, I know everything else, but if you want to have Goddard going out there and you need another thing, I think Stoll's going to be that one. And it's not the prettiest of receiving times when he's out there going his routes, but I was shocked that he got as many targets as he did last year. Jalen started to trust him a little bit more, but I think when you look at what he does for your blocking aspect, he allows Goddard to go out there a little bit. To me, it's a battle for the 3, and I was definitely thinking, like, before, I'm thinking, all right, Calcaterra's got this, but Arnold's starting to get up, creep up a little bit. And then you still got Tyree Jackson a little bit still lingering around too. I think, to me, it's going to come down to who blocks better at the 3, because we all know that he got to do well with that quarterback sneak. If not, if you're just letting guys go in, I'm like, yeah, you don't.
That's what I was going to follow up and ask you. Is the Tyree Jackson experiment just about over? I mean, the dude's 6'7", got a wingspan like a 747, but he's never been able to stay healthy.
That's his issue. If he stayed healthy, especially that first before that ACL tear, I'm thinking he's the number 3 tight end easily, and he could be a great red zone threat. Really, yeah. You mean tell me you have to worry about AJ Brown? You got to worry about possible crossing matchup with Goddard and Tyree Jackson going across. You got Devonta Smith on the outside. Good luck. And you got Jalen Hurts can still run. That was good, but the thing is he can't stay healthy, and he still needs to work on his blocking too, because you can tell it's still. He's gotten better from when I remember initially seeing him when he entered the league, but you still tell it's kind of a quarterback trying to block, and he's starting to get. He's gotten better. He's got his hand placement a little better, but it's he. I think if I had to start saying the season, if they're making rosters right now, he's on the outside looking in.
All right, let me ask you about 2 names who I don't think most of us had on our radar coming in: Mekhi Garner and Ngata, excuse me, the receiver out of Clemson, undrafted, Joseph Ngata. It seems that I'm hearing a lot of good stuff about both. Give me a little bit on those 2 guys.
To me, those are my 2 camp standouts by far. Like that dark horses. To me, they're a dark horse. I'll start with Garner. Garner is really physical, and I like that. So you need a cornerback like that as well. Because I know a lot of times you think of the zone, you're thinking, okay, 1-2, let me just get to my area that one. I like the fact that he's gotten into some of these receivers' faces and started trying to reroute them as well. And he's been sticking to their hips as well, too. I like what he's done. He's gotten beat. Yeah, he's gotten beat a couple of times, because I think there's been instances where he's too physical trying to get there, but I like what he brings in that way. I look at Ngata. I think he's an interesting case, because I don't think they carry 6 wide receivers just because he needs other places. But he's a guy where I look at him like, okay, you can see him being a developmental guy, runs those inside shots, a bigger receiver. He's around to me, it was like the same build, like AJ Brown type. He's not AJ Brown, but he's got the AJ Brown type build. Yeah. And when you're running those RPOs, when you're running those slants, you can hit him. My only thing is, it seems like every time he catches the ball, he's slipping afterwards. Like, man, take your cleats, man.
Is he playing in Arizona? What's going on?
Sodfather must have went to the NovaCare Center all of a sudden. And it's affecting him, because you see him, he makes these catches, like, cool, and then he's slipping and falling to the ground. And
dude, change your spikes, man. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, he should easily have about another like 20, 25 yards after the catch, but he keeps down too. But those two guys, to me, I really like what they've shown so far early on. I can't wait to see them in this preseason game.
Yeah.
I haven't heard much about Zacchaeus in training camp. Has he done much of anything? I mean, a 5'8" slot guy. Has he done much of anything in camp?
It's been to me, it's been inconsistent with him because you'll see in the individual drills, he'll have a few drops, or he's double catching. He's double catching he's double catching. It's like, And so when everybody says like, hey, oh, he's going to be a 3, to me, I still think Watkins is your surefire 3 because I just don't think he's shown early on. And granted, I'll preface this early, but I think early on it hasn't been a lot of clean catches with that. Mm-hmm. So you want him and there's times when you see him, they'll run like these certain play, and then he makes this spectacular catch. Like, all right, I can see this. I can see why they got him, but it's too inconsistent. And it seems like that's the term with this camp. You just want when it comes to a lot of things, you want consistency across the board because you see a lot of these guys flashing, and other guys will take 2 steps back. Like, what are you doing here? So, yeah, I think he's the number. I think he's steadfast in that number 4 spot.
All right, we focused on the linebackers, but safety, and that's another concern area, right? Sidney Brown, everybody's just like, man, this dude's waiting to pop. He wants to just kill people, and obviously you can't do that kind of stuff a lot in practice, right? So we're hearing that, but it seems like he's at least made his way up to the 2s. He was with the 3s early, right, Chris? So how are things looking safety-wise in your opinion?
I think I thought he was going to kill somebody last night. I really thought, it's like, oh no, he's like Marcus Epps hit Boston Scott last year. I'm like, oh, there's going to be a concussion here. Here we go. But yeah, when you look at that, I look at the way it's turned out. I think Blankenship's one of the starters. From what we've seen in OTAs, a lot of times early, it's OTAs into early training camp, it was always Blankenship and Edmonds. Yep. I wouldn't be surprised you see a lot of 3 safety looks, and they show it a couple of times and playing that big nickel. So I think that's an opportunity where you can get Brown in there in the field, have him be there. We all know his ball hawking skills. Yep. Allow him to play back and let everything develop underneath and see what he does, and let him choose his spots to try to pick the ball off. I think they're there. Kayvon's gotten a lot. I'm shocked. Kayvon Wallace. He's warranted getting some more run. He's played a lot well early in camp. It's a matter of thing when it comes to him, like always, it's the coverage. Mm-hmm. He's more of a box safety, so you look at that. So I can think to me, I think they hold steadfast, and this is early on. I think they hold steadfast with Edmonds and Blankenship being your starters, but I think you'll see Sidney Brown being mixed in here and there, especially in a big nickel type role, so you can allow him to do his thing.
Why haven't we heard much about Greedy Williams? I mean, he was a quality corner in Cleveland, but nobody's talking about him in camp. Is he underperforming as well? I mean, because I think he could play safety also if he had to.
Here's the thing: it's so many guys at that position. Yeah. It's one of the, like we were talking about earlier with running backs. Cornerbacks will be another thing where I think it's going to be tough. You see a lot of names. You're going like, he's had a solid camp to me. I mean, Greedy got a little greedy on one of those plays. AJ Brown, he would have been flagged for pass interference. Got a little bit, get handsy, but another physical guy, another guy who likes to disrupt the timing early on in the route. And it's to me, it's just a numbers game. I mean, I know you could use him back there and do this, and we're seeing more and more of his positions like back 7, where guys just line up and say, okay, I'm just going to put my best on your best, and we'll just go from there. Yep. Yeah, it's possible. You've seen him more like focused on that cornerback, and right now, I'm looking. You look at Joe Garner and Williams trying to vie for one of those spots. It's tough. I think he's just got lost because everybody else is really going out there right now.
Chris, will we see? I know we're not going to see like Jalen Hurts, so I don't mean these kind of guys when I ask this, but will we see any sort of name guy? Like, will Jordan Davis or Jalen Carter or Nolan Smith or any of those kind of guys get reps? Do they want to get Juergens reps in games? Like, will we see any of them in Baltimore or any of the preseason games?
I think it's still be decided. I haven't heard anything for myself there. If I'm them, we know how much they value these joint practices.
Yeah,
almost like their games themselves.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if like Carter and Smith get some playing time just to get them their feet wet to how they warm up, how they get used to things, how they do things before a game. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. I don't think you'll see a lot of main stars. Juergens, to me, I don't think there's much to prove for him at the center spot because he's not going to be back. So you're not going to see him playing that way too. And you want to value that guy because he's going to be starting lineman. So he may get some, if maybe a series. I don't know. It's tough to still figure that out for him, but I wouldn't play him too much as well too because he's gonna be a important part of your offensive line.
See, my rags to riches story this year has to be Derek Barnett. And I'm think the Eagles are going to give him every opportunity possible to be a definitive part of this front, this pass rush. Has he had any standout moments, or has he just been okay?
He's been all right. I mean, he deflected one pass earlier, one of Hurts's passes early, but that's been about it. And I think he's been limited a lot because they've still been working on that knee. And I still think it's his roster. I really do. The fact that they restructured that deal was to me a clear indication, like, you know what, we're bringing you back. And they even liked him last year before he tore his ACL. They were still high on him. Nick was really going to bat for him, and the guys in the locker room love him because they've seen what he's going through. I mean, Brandon Graham still, he's like, he knows it because he knows that too. They can develop late too. I think it's the second game, especially against the Browns. He's going to need these joint practices to really stand out and get that rush from that outside. He really is going to need to do that in flash. But I still think he makes his roster. And I think we got like Denarius Robinson, who you start to question, is he going to make the roster because of that restructured deal now?
Chris, we kind of touched on it, but what's Nick's message been? Has it been a lot of, hey man, he hasn't been afraid to reference the Super Bowl, look at it himself almost obsessively from some of the stuff that I've seen. Whereas some other coaches may say, hey, we got to forget that. We got to move on. It's forward, et cetera. What has been his message to this team that we all have pretty high hopes for, but it's hard. We all know it's hard to get back there.
He doesn't want them thinking about a Super Bowl. They don't want to think about hearing what's going on. Oh, you guys are supposed to be the NFC favorites. He's using that old cliche, old adage, we're going to take it one day at a time, one game at a time, one rep at a time. We all know that one too.
Yeah.
I think right now, that's the best way to do it because the players, they know they're good. They know they're a good roster. They know that. And the last thing you want to do is thinking, oh, we can just be complacent. And then halfway through the season, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, we should have had a couple of games we should have won. And then you're starting to worry a little bit. You're panicking, and that's how everything spirals. So it's been basically he wants to look at the short term and not to think it. He's going to really think that he's going to gather everything up, and then that's going to lead to find another playoff run. But they're just focused on the short term right now and not that long term right now. These are what he's trying to get across.
Right. No question. Well, listen, man, always good getting the info from someone who's there up close and personal, Chris. We appreciate it, brother.
Appreciate you, brother.
Keep up the good work. Yeah, follow him on Twitter at C Franklin News, and of course,
follow him on what? On what?
Oh, sorry, X.
Follow him on
X. Throw your Dante holes up.
Yeah. I know that's going to take me a while. I got to tell you to get that out of my system.
That's X. Ridiculous. X.
I don't like it. Like it's like the only X that should be involved with the Eagles and everything else. When we talk about Weapon X and Brian Dawkins, all this other X and X this that X, it goes DMX. And everything, Weapon X, and everything else. Just make it Twitter.
Like any business, you want to establish a brand. Yeah. Once you establish it that's successful, you roll with it. Like, what are you doing? I don't know, whatever.
Twitter, go the Prince way.
X this.
Yes.
The social media site formerly known as X. I'll go the Prince way.
I'm never referring to it as X. Never.
Chris, listen, man. Thanks for a couple minutes. We do appreciate it, brother. Thanks.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Take care. Man. All right, actually, Tone, I need the Carson Wentz still of Carson Wentz working out. Gunner, we get a chance to get to this in the first segment. I want to show people what Carson is his wardrobe, what he's rocking here to get ready to try to make his comeback, if you will. So currently, Carson Wentz is out of football. We know that he does want to play. He has said that he will accept a role as a backup. All right, so this is real. Eagle helmet
superimposed.
No, this is real. Eagles helmet, Washington Commanders jersey, Colts shorts. So you're looking at, working your actually, you're not even working your way backwards. You're going middle down up, for what the career has been of late from Carson Wentz. You're telling me like there isn't, I get it. Maybe you don't have a lot of helmets lying around, but you couldn't have thrown on a different pair of shorts or a different jersey over your pads?
It's a marketing ploy, man.
Is that what it is?
He's desperate.
I think it looks weird.
Let's put it like this. 2017, he was a viable Eagles MVP candidate. Okay, until he hurt his knee. Look at how his career spiraled downward since. And the storylines that have come out behind him, not just in one, but two places. All right. How many people, dude, that looks fun. That looks like a Halloween get up.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre.
First of all, there's a reason he's still out there looking for work. I don't know if anybody wants to touch him right now based on stories that have been told about him.
Yep.
See, there are quarterbacks sitting out there waiting for jobs that are just caught in a numbers game that there's nobody really looking at them right now because they have younger players they want to look at to see if they can develop these younger quarterbacks, so on and so forth. If they find out one of these younger guys is not it, then these veterans can get a call. I think he's last on anybody's priority list to call as a backup. He's got the talent. He can run. He can throw. But there's that other stuff that came with him that has tainted his career, and I don't know if he's going to ever be able to fix his image, to be honest.
I agree. Look, I agree with you in this sense. It's one thing if a guy has just been ravaged by injuries in his career, and certainly Wentz, we know, has had a share of injuries. If it was just that, you could justify bringing him in because you know he's a great presence in the locker room, and he's going to be the backup, so he'll actually have some time to heal. And then perhaps when he's called on, he can do a good job for you.
Yeah.
The issue with Carson it's the injury stuff, but it's also the know-it-all, splintering a locker room kind of stuff that goes along with him. So that's the problem.
Or being labeled potentially uncoachable.
Correct. Yeah, he's a know-it-all in a lot of ways, and yeah, look, I don't think it's a coincidence that this is happening right now. I think to some degree he had to be humbled, and I'm sure that this is part of the process of being humbled. I don't know that it's to the extent that it needs to be. And, where is he physically? I mean, he was a wonder because he was so big and he was athletic and he get out of tackles. But all that stuff has started to play against him too. Like he holds the ball too long because he thinks he can make, magical plays happen rather than just conducting the offense, if you will. So I think all of those things, do I think if there's injuries this year that he could get a shot as a backup? For sure. I mean, it depends on the severity of the injuries around the league. I don't think teams are knocking down his door right now. I don't know that he starts the year on a roster.
Let's also be honest. The NFL owners are not above sending definitive messages to certain players. We've known they've been involved in collusions and things like that. I wouldn't be surprised if it said, hey, don't touch this dude. He needs to learn a lesson. Now, out of desperation, somebody might bring him in, as you said, during the season. Quarterback gets injured in preseason. A backup gets injured in preseason. Backup doesn't pan out the way a team thinks. Maybe they get desperate. Okay, he provides a veteran presence. But if I bring him in here, my contract is so ironclad tight against him. Dude, if you even burped the wrong way, you're gone. I'm dead serious. You're not coming in here disrupting the chemistry and the continuity we're trying to build here. Yeah. We're looking for people who can be positive examples and role models. We're looking for a veteran presence who can come in here and mentor some young players. Don't teach him your negatives. Whatever positive you've learned along the way, those better stand out first and foremost, or we won't hesitate to let you go, plain and simple. Yeah. You've had enough chances in your career. You've made enough big money in your career to know what this league is all about.
Well, and that's where I'm starting with him. Like if I'm having a conversation with him, I'm not even I'll get to the injuries, but the first thing is, hey, tell me why this is the rep that's going around the league with you. How much truth is there to this? How coachable are you? I think that's where everything begins with Carson. If he wants to continue to have a career, they're the things that he's going to have to answer to and show by his actions that he is willing to be that guy. I don't know right now. Would it shock you if he never played again? It wouldn't shock me.
No. Now, I agree with what Daz here says in our chat to a certain degree that he says Carson is better than 99% of the backups in the league. I won't say 90. I'll say he's better than at least 90% of the backups in the league. He might be better than 99%, but at least 90%, which means there's a 10% window. But because of his history and his image, I mean, look at what they did to Colin Kaepernick. Look at what the league did to Colin Kaepernick because he took a stance. And then your commissioner came out years after the fact and said, well, after the George Floyd incident, well, maybe we should have listened to Colin.
Right.
Really? So you blacklisted him out of the league, but you should have listened to him later? Now, Carson Wentz, that's a whole different beast. Carson destroyed his own image, but Carson has attributes that could help a team in a backup role. But because of the image and how he's been portrayed the last couple of years, nobody wants to touch him.
I don't know. Like, I'll put it to you this way. Like, Dan says Dan Cilio says last 24 games, 5,318 yards, 38 TD, 16 picks, et cetera. Those numbers on face are not bad, for sure. And certainly better than what some backups who are out there can produce. But tell me why he's been through 3 teams in 3 years, and right now he's out of football. If it's just about the numbers, which aren't that terrible. Why is that? Because that tells me it's beyond the numbers and what the potential talent is.
He divides. He doesn't bring people together. He's standoffish. He butts heads with coaching staffs, offensive coordinators, quarterback coaches. You tell him one thing, he's still going to do his own thing. It doesn't work that way. You got to play along. This is a league where a lot of times you got to play along to get along. There are very few Tom Brady's, Aaron Rodgers that can write their own ticket, do what they want, say what they want, and there's no repercussions. There's very few of those players in the National Football League. I talk to players all the time. You have to get along. You have to play along to get along in this league.
Yep.
And you have to build yourself to a certain status to where you can speak out and say what you want to say and do what you want to do. It doesn't happen often. But Carson Wentz found a way to basically, now granted, I will give Carson this. After his Super Bowl year, offensive line issues, think about this. Offensive line issues everywhere he's played, including the Eagles.
True.
Because of injuries, either injuries or they just had an inferior offensive line.
I agree.
He hasn't had a decent offensive line to protect him since he played for the Eagles.
I think when things fail this spectacularly for someone, it's usually not just one reason. Like, some of it, I think more of it is on him, but some of it, you can't control. The last year with the Eagles was a mess for a lot of reasons. With Doug, with the offensive line being injured, there were a lot of things going on. We saw with the Colts that it didn't matter who was playing quarterback. We saw it last year with Matt Ryan.
Washington, he got tattooed.
Washington, but we saw him when he played the Eagles the first time this year. It was the same old crap. Holds the ball too long. Turnovers, that kind of stuff. I mean, would they have 6 sacks on him, whatever it was?
They had 9. They had 9.
Sorry. And that's not just the offensive line. That's the quarterback who doesn't know when to get rid of the ball too. It's like I said, it's a combo of things.
If your receivers aren't getting open, you just don't want to throw the ball away. Now, granted, he does have a tendency to hold the ball too long, but let's face it, their receivers were not getting over. And by the time, there was a lot of times when he stepped back and planted his foot in the turf, he'd have to start running for his life because the people up front, the 5 guys up front, couldn't hold the line of scrimmage for him.
Yeah. Yep.
And the Eagles just tattooed him.
Yeah.
And his whole season was like that in Washington. That offensive line was a mess in Washington. No
doubt. Yeah.
Let's see what he could do. And I don't know if it's going to happen behind a decent offensive line that can protect him and give him some time. I don't know if that's going to happen for him. I really don't. And I don't know. You're right. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get back in the league this year, Rob. If he doesn't get back in the league this year, that's a definitive message sent by the league owners to him.
Yeah.
What you did the last couple of years has cost you severely.
Yep. All right, let's get a timeout. Let's come back. We will turn our sights to the Phils, and they won 2 out of 3 over the weekend. And it was a weekend that had there's a lot more going on than just what was happening on the field. So we'll get into all that kind of stuff when we come back a little bit later. Derek, we're going to walk through the AFC East and pick the order of the AFC East and who finishes where. All right, let's talk about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because knowing who to trust with your finances, critical to say the least. But I can tell you from personal experience that I trust Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review. You might have a small business and you need help getting your employee benefits off the ground. I mean, that's another resource that Jim can help you with. I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. You will be too. Give him a call. 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751. You could also email him, Murray, MURRAY, .jim@principal.com. That's Murray.jim@principal.com.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio, or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
Score and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com. EAGLES, Eagles.
We're back. Yes, we are. Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. That's Derek. I'm Rob. If you could, please hit the like button. We would appreciate that. Coming up, Derek, we will get into what we're going to do is each day leading up to, over about the course of the next 8 days, because there's 8 divisions, we are going to break down one division per day. And today we do the AFC East. Tomorrow we'll do the AFC North. So we'll work our way through the AFC, then through the NFC. Last division we'll do, obviously, will be the NFC East. But today will be the AFC East, which, you know, you can make a case as the best in football: Bills, Jets, Dolphins, Patriots. So we will get into that. Certainly get a little bit more into some of the linebacker moves that the Eagles made. Tons of football news in the 2:00 segment as well. Later, we'll get into the U.S. women's soccer team getting eliminated from the World Cup and some of the ramifications of that. And you see the brawl this weekend between the White Sox and the Guardians. Man!
Oh my goodness!
Jose Ramirez just dropped Tim Anderson. Poof. Yeah.
Down goes Frazier.
That was a real, you don't see a lot of real sports fights. It's usually like, hold me back, hold me back, hold me back. That was a real one. Yeah.
You know, there was a stretch though, not too long ago, not too many years ago, when fisticuffs were common in baseball, man. Dudes just started swinging on each other. Haven't seen one to that degree in a while, man. That looked like a hockey fight.
It did. It really did. Yeah, that was something. So we'll get into that and what, with the suspensions and all that good stuff from there. All right. So the Phillies beat the Royals yesterday, 8-4. They won the last 2 games of the series. They're 61-51. Now that 10 games above 500 ties them for the most they've been all season. The good thing is too, they're starting, even though they're in second place. They're tied actually, but they're starting to put some distance between themselves and anybody after them. They're 3 up on the Cubs. They're 3 up on the Reds, who have lost 6 in a row.
Yep.
They are, 3.5 up on the Marlins, who have lost their last 4 and 7 of 10. Diamondbacks have lost their last 6. So teams are starting to kind of fade, especially the younger ones right now. And boy, we're leading up to what's going to be a really fascinating series between the Phillies and the Giants. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourselves. It's August 21st through the 23rd, but that one's going to be fun.
Yeah. Is that one's here?
That's here.
Because they got beat up pretty good out there when they played the Giants, didn't they?
They did.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they owe the Giants. If this team starts hitting the way they hit this past weekend, oh yeah, I think that's going to be a little bit different series. And let's face it, the Phillies team has a knack for playing the better teams a lot tougher than they do the lesser teams.
Yeah.
When they lost their first game to Kansas City on Friday. Here we go again. Here we go again. This team playing down to its competition. Although I will say this, having not seen Kansas City play this year, and it's a young team, those boys can hit in Kansas City.
They're going to, give them a couple years, and
Yes,
that team's going to be dangerous. They got some real young talent.
If they can get pitching, if they can get some pitching to go along with this young nucleus, they're going to be a dangerous team. I'm impressed with their hitting arsenal, especially them dudes hitting long balls for them.
Yeah.
Because they came in here and they hit some monster shots off this Phillies pitching, but it just didn't have enough to sustain it in the pitching department.
They're not there yet, but they have sort of a Baltimore Oriole feel in a couple of years where it's homegrown, smaller market, but they're going to be tough. I agree. And they came in hot. They after the Friday win, they had won 7 in a row.
Yep.
So to get the last 2, are big. And as we mentioned a little bit earlier, so Schwarber goes 3 for 4. Schwarber was 0 for 19 and 4 for his last 52. He hits the home run. He has a couple of other hits. He drives 2 in. That was big. Castellanos looks like he's getting his swing back a little bit. He went yard. He went yard Friday also. So he has a good game. If you look at Harper ends up having a really big game, and he got robbed of one at the wall too.
At the wall center field. Yep.
So the power stroke's starting to get there for him. And then of course Turner, and we all know what went down with Turner. So, having those guys play the way that they were playing, coupled with the fact that you're still getting contributions from the younger guys, like Stott has a 3-run home run yesterday. And the pitchers did what they had to do. I mean, Taijuan Walker's got 13 wins.
Yep.
He's tied for the most in Major League Baseball. When he pitches, Derek, they've won 11 of 10 and 14 of 17 when he's on the mound.
What more can you ask? I mean, it wasn't his best outing yesterday, but it was efficient. He got the outs when he had to get them. He had great support in the field. He only had 2 strikeouts, gave up the 1 home run. He had 95 pitches over 7 innings. 95 pitches over 7 innings. I'll take that from my starter.
Yep.
Especially with the strength of this bullpen on the back end. If your starting pitcher can get you to 7, you're in pretty good shape usually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
I did not even know Zach Greinke was still in the majors though, pitching for Kansas City. That dude's 1-12.
I know he is 1-12, and he's clearly a shell of what he was. He's got no run support this season. Now he got it yesterday, but he's got no run support. But you're right, he's cooked. I mean, look, you got to take advantage of that kind of stuff, and it was there in front of them. And Walker gave up 3 early, and then the Phillies got it right back on the Stott home run. So that was big. The fact that they answered right away and it was jumped right back on them was big. I want to just take it to next level here when it comes to what the ovation thing, which we discussed a little bit earlier, but I thought it was really interesting. Bryce Harper was on the WIP postgame show with Scott Fransky and Larry Anderson. And Derek, I mean, when he went on and on and on about praising the fans, it was unbelievable. And it was genuine. It wasn't the usual, yeah, we appreciate the support. Yeah. It was real. And at one point he said, I only wish I started my career here as opposed to Washington. Like these guys, there is a real connection, particularly with the baseball and football team with this city. I know they're both good, but there's just such a likability with these players on both of these teams that there's a really special bond here with these two, entities.
You don't have me guys. You don't have guys who step out of the team protocol. You got guys who just roll up their sleeves and go out there and give you an effort every day. Whether the end result is what you like or not, at least they went out there. And let's face it, every game can't be perfect. We're all human. We all make errors. And let's face it, the Phillies have had their flawed games, no question about it this season. They went through a stretch when it was like the Keystone Cops out there. in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
But they've seen to iron some things out. They still can play a good quality brand of baseball. It's a star-studded team. If you really want to think about it, it's a star-studded team.
Yeah.
Should they have been better? Did we expect them to be a lot better in terms of wins and losses than what they are right now? Yep. But the bottom line is, as we sit here today, there's still 10 games over 500. There's a whole lot of teams in the majors that would trade places with them in a minute, record-wise.
Mm-hmm.
They have the pieces in the fall. It's not like they had to go out and scramble and get a bunch at the trade deadline to try to make the product better. And they didn't. Let's face it, they didn't. They went out and got one pitcher. It's just a matter. Baseball is such a finicky game.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of having more high tides than low tides. And that's why I say hopefully this weekend we start to see this team turn the corner, because the Phillies hit all 3 games. Didn't get the results they wanted on Friday, but he hit the ball solidly all 3 games this weekend.
No, you're right. And the good thing is, because they're in this stretch and they play tonight again, they don't have an off day. They start 4 against Washington. What was important also yesterday for Walker, he spared the bullpen. Yeah. You didn't have to use Kimbrel. You didn't have to use Sir Anthony. Those guys have been getting killed lately. So the fact that you didn't have to roll those guys out and they're going to be fresh and available for you tonight is big. You won despite maybe not a great effort from Walker and not a great effort from Sanchez Saturday night. You were able to still win those games. Yep. Are you still worried about Nola? For sure. Yeah, 100% you are. I mean, Derek, I was at the game and I'm watching him the first couple of innings. He was laboring. Here's the other thing you notice, especially when you're there, as opposed to TV, and TV does a good job with this too, but when you're there, you can see more. He still hasn't adapted to that pitch clock, man. He's still using that tactic of getting a new ball. He calls for more new balls than any pitcher I've ever seen. And it's a stall tactic. And remember, he got called on the carpet for it the one game. Yeah. And they're going to do more of that. But I'm telling you, he hasn't adjusted to the pitch clock. He has not.
I think it's a mind game with him. I think it's a lot like Trey Turner, and Turner seems to have come out of it, at least temporarily. I think the weight has gone for him all season long, and I believe every time he steps to the hill, he's got to say to himself, "This is the game. I turned it around," and it really hasn't happened for the most part.
Yeah.
You look at the volume of hard hit balls he's given up. That's not the Aaron Nola we're used to seeing.
No.
The volume of home runs he's given up, the most home runs in his career in a season. That's not the Aaron Nola. I think it's become a mind game. I think every time now that he gives up a home run, especially early in the game, all of a sudden his mental psyche is shattered.
I agree with you.
And I think he's trying to fine-tune his pitches too much to the point where they're just spinning across the plate. He doesn't have to snap on his breaking pitches consistently the way he's had in the past. And then once it starts to unravel just a little bit for him, all of a sudden his psyche is fractured.
You know what I wonder? This is what makes me wonder, and you're right in what's happening. Is he just not the same pitcher? Is it the pitch clock? Is it free agency weighing in his head? I don't know. The reason it's hard to tell is he's such a laid back guy. He is such he reminds you of Bryson Stott in that sense, that it just seems like nothing's bothering this dude. But just because that's what you're showing exterior doesn't mean that's what's going on interior. We know that with human beings. It's just the way it is. People put on a happy face even if they're sad. People put on a sad face. You know what I mean? You don't. Yeah. I can't figure him out because he, like we talked about, he can look really good and be rolling, and then he smashes into a wall and there's no return.
I don't think you can use the pitch clock as an excuse anymore. At this stage of a season, we're in August. Every pitcher who's been in the majors, at least for most of this season, has had to adjust to the pitch clock. And if the pitch clock is still in his head, then I've got to sit down and have a conversation with a baseball psychologist then. If that's still affecting him more than anything else, if speeding up his delivery between pitches is still affecting him, then the pitching coach still needs to sit down. John Dickerson, I blame D-Gun. Everybody blames D-Gun. That's fine with me. I got broad shoulders. I can handle that.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? If Aaron wants to blame me, if the fan base wants to blame me, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
I'm not out there getting 7-figure income, though. You can blame me all you want.
That's not what I heard. But,
the worst thing that, I didn't say 7 cents. I said 7 figures. So, the worst thing that could have happened to Aaron Nola was going into this season, it was quite obvious the contract situation was hovering out there, and the Phillies didn't address it then. Phillies took a wait-and-see approach.
Yep.
The two couldn't have happened at a worse time for him.
No.
Because there's still speculation even today. Is the contract affecting Aaron Nola?
Yep.
So he's got that. And whether it is or not, it's still hovering over his head. And it's going to hover because other people who are possibly looking at Aaron Nola beyond this season are saying, I don't know if this is the guy that we want to really hone in on it for a big money contract.
Yeah, I think the thing with Nola is he eats a lot of innings. We know that. It's he doesn't walk a lot of people. All those kind of things are on the positive side of the ledger, but there's no denying. I mean, the ERA just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing this year, and his propensity to give up the long ball is frightening. I mean, it can just change a game, in one swing. All right, let's get a timeout. We'll talk some NFL when we come back. We'll dig into a bunch of different things, including the AFC East, and a report regarding one of the Texans owners, which we'll get into, but a ton of other stuff, including I'll give you some numbers on how the Thursday night Hall of Fame game did, Derek, which just continues to show you why football is king. But we'll get into all of that when we come back. Don't go anywhere. That's Derek. I'm Rob. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk about Pro Action Restoration. Yeah, if you have a home, you have a business, you have a property you own, and you're either hit with water damage, fire, smoke, mold, any of the above to your property, and you're not really sure what to do, well, Pro Action Restoration is the place that you call. In fact, they're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist you. I know personally I've gone through it with my parents at their house, and called them up on a Saturday, and Pro Action Restoration got right over there. They cleaned the place up. The crew was professional. The price was right. It was a great experience. They are licensed, bonded, fully insured. They've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action Restoration will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So again, could be water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation, you name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760. You can reach out online as well, proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right, did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake a mama. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh. EAGLES. Eagles.
Welcome back. Rob Ellis, Derek Gunn. Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Appreciate you hanging out with us. All right, Derek, let's turn our sights to the NFL. Texans minority owner Javier Loya faces rape charges in Kentucky. He's a successful Houston businessman, minority owner of the Texans since 2002, faces multiple criminal charges in Kentucky. According to Pro Football Talk, they have learned that Loya faces 1 count of first-degree rape, 5 counts of first-degree sexual abuse, 1 count of third-degree sexual abuse.
My goodness.
This is based on public records posted online. The case is set for pretrial conference on August 22nd. So according to I guess he's a co-founder of and CEO of OTC Global Holdings. And the Texans put a statement out and said, quote, "We are aware of the serious charges filed in the Commonwealth of Kentucky against Javier Loya, one of our outside limited partners. We have agreed with Mr. Loya that while these charges are pending, he will remove himself entirely from any team or league activities." All right. So that's kind of where things are right now with him. Yeah, it's serious stuff there, man. Very serious.
Well, in a situation like that, it's imperative that he steps out of the limelight and is not a distraction to this organization. Can't wait to see where this goes. I mean, that's, sometimes I hate to say it, people get too much power and they think they can do anything, get away with anything. And I'm not saying that until it all comes out, we don't know what's what. We've seen too many stories. You look at the Matt Araiza story, with Buffalo.
I agree. And we're going to talk about Josh Sills, who's another example. He's an Eagles offensive lineman who was just acquitted on Friday in Ohio of rape and kidnapping charges, and in fact has been reinstated to the league and is back on the Eagles roster. So yeah, that it's incredibly serious, but this is something that you have to let play out before you make any kind of judgments.
Yes, exactly. And hopefully the resolution comes quicker rather than later. Sometimes these things can be drawn out for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And the Texans organization has had enough black eye situations with the Deshaun Watson situation. And then the story comes out about the team paid off X amount of women who supposedly were at a hotel in Houston with Deshaun, things of that nature. There's only so much you can cover up in terms of trying to buy people off. Right. We know rape is serious allegations, and especially in America. And so I will withhold further opinions until more information comes out and is made available in a story like this, because again, this is just on the surface, and we've seen things that blow up and put people in a negative limelight and cost them, and then all of a sudden it's reversed.
Good point. Good point.
We just mentioned 2 prime examples, so that's a tough one.
He was investigated previously, again, unrelated to this, back in 2008. He was investigated for gambling. A situation arose. He was accused in a lawsuit of being involved in high-stakes gambling with employees and clients of his energy company. So I'm just giving you, there's been some, he's been on the radar before for things. So again, unrelated to this, but let's throw that out there. Beyond that, we're seeing this trend here, Derek. Doug Peterson plans to play Trevor Lawrence in Saturday's preseason opener. Frank Reich is going to start Bryce Young in the Panthers preseason opener. CJ Stroud is going to start for the Texans in their preseason opener. The Eagles take a different approach, but that is not the approach, even in this day and age, that everybody takes. They like to get their guys reps in game action.
Well, in recent years, we've seen more and more teams pull their regulars from preseason games. In the case of Stroud and Bryce Young, they have to get reps.
Yeah.
You know, you can only do so much in practice, even if you're practicing against another team. You need to get out there at full game speed. These are the future of your franchise, and these are the guys that are going to be counted on to start your season. You want to do everything possible you can help them make a smoother transition. They're going to go through growing pains no matter what, because they're going to be looking at so many different fronts, teams trying to confuse them, and they're going to make their share of mistakes. They're going to have some wild plays as well, but those players have to play. A little surprised at Doug playing Trevor Lawrence, though.
I am too. Like I kind of get the rookies. Like you want to just get them as many, just see something different as possible, but that's a risk, man.
Yeah, I don't know why you're putting Trevor Lawrence out there in the preseason game or your starters. If you're playing Trevor Lawrence, that means you're playing all your starters also. Usually in years past, when everybody was still playing their starters, the starters, if anything, might get a series the first game, might get a quarter the second game, and then the third game they either get a half or 3 quarters. They've gone away from that a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that you're playing your starter, your franchise player in a preseason game against an opponent who's probably not playing frontline players, but guys hungry to make a name for themselves, that's a big risk.
It's, you know, I remember Brady wanted to play too. Belichick wasn't forcing him to do it, but Brady would play preseason games. He would get some reps.
Yeah.
So everybody's got a different approach here, but man, your whole season changes if one of these guys goes down, especially a veteran. So you're right. I mean, that if you're starting those guys, just take the Jags, for example, your entire offensive line, your starting offensive line has to be in there. I would guess.
Yes.
You know, and we may be only be talking a series, but ETN has got to be in there, right? Calvin Ridley's got to be in there. You know, you would think you're not putting Lawrence out there with nobodies. You want to see all of the first team offense, you know, get into some kind of flow. It also may be, I don't know, the reason behind it may be the fact that he doesn't like what he's seeing so far. That you know, that Doug's not loving what's going on in the early
Still a risk. I mean, if this was Doug's first year, I could possibly see him playing Lawrence, but you look at the measure. Now, they struggled early on, but look at how they came on like gangbusters and played a good competitive game in the playoffs before they bowed out.
Yeah.
You know, if this was the first year, I could see him trying to get players on the page of understanding what is expected of them, both offensively and defensively. But he's got a good nucleus of players coming back, and he's got a bunch of young players they need to make evaluations on. I don't need to see my frontline players. We know who the primetime players are for Jacksonville.
Yeah.
You know who your starters are. I'm not putting them out there, especially with the volume of injuries, fluke injuries players are having nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not putting them out there.
Well, the other thing is, I don't know about Indy yet. We haven't seen anything. But if Stroud is starting the first game, if Bryce Young is starting the first game, I'm going to guess probably Richardson will too. They're throwing all the rookies out there. You know, they're not going with the learn behind the veteran thing that teams have employed before. They're going.
You look at all 3 teams, they need to change the complexion of what they want to be and who they want to be, and it starts with the quarterback. And if you're going into a season starting a rookie quarterback in a National Football League, you want to get them as much game reps as you can. Now, is that a big risk? Yes. But these guys have got to get that timing down. You know, your audible calls, your fake calls at the line of scrimmage. You know, when you're trying to get a team to jump off,
dummy calls,
all the dummy calls.
Right.
You know, when you look up and down the line of scrimmage and you make eye contact, you don't have to say anything with the receiver. They know where you're going to be with the ball, and you know where they're going to be and where they're going to turn, whether they're going to turn inside or outside on certain routes. You know, you need to get that timing down. I understand that. There's no need to do that with Jacksonville. You know, those guys are on the same page.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like they're bringing in a bunch of wholesale new players, you know, for your quarterback. You know, Houston has had – look how long Houston has been bad.
Yeah.
You know, now you got a new head coach. You know, you got to get your game timing down. Even if he's not the defensive coordinator, you know, DeMeco Ryans has a definitive say in the defense. You know, and you want to make sure they understand where they're supposed to be. Carolina, they spent a lot of money, which is unusual. They spent a lot of money bringing in other personnel to play with a rookie, but they obviously feel they can win now in a very suspect division, even with a rookie quarterback. Indianapolis, look at what their record was last year. They had a quarterback mess last year. And if you're giving it over to Anthony Richardson, especially 255-pound Anthony Richardson, You got to get him out there.
Yeah.
You got to play him.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's going to be fun. I love seeing it. I'd love to see the young kids get their opportunity. And there is the risk of them sort of getting the happy feet thing and getting beat up and making the mistakes, and they don't respond from it. But I'm a believer in, for the most part, like if you're that guy, you can learn from those mistakes and get better. I mean, look at the rookie season guys like Peyton Manning had, where they were terrible. And then, they got going here. But it'd be interesting to see what ends up happening with all of those guys. But yeah, Doug taking a little bit of a risk. That's for sure. I mean, he'll get killed for it if he goes down. I can tell you that he will get crushed. Devin White's in a good place here, Derek. He was unhappy with things. He wanted out, in fact, but the Buccaneers picked up his 5th-year option on his rookie contract, and he spoke to reporters today for the first time since the trade request. And he said, quote, "Going forward, we came to a good agreement. I want to be a long-term guy. That's why I got a little selfish. At the end of the day, I'm still here. I'm locked in." He started all 68 games since he's been a Buck. They drafted him 5th overall in 19. He's in the, heading into you got one more year left on the last year of that deal. But the coming months will show whether or not the Bucks are going to give a new deal or not. I would think this is a guy that you don't want to walk out that door, as young as he is and as consistent as he is.
Well, it tells me whatever meeting they had, they came to a meeting of the minds that we will take care of you. Keep doing what you're doing. We will work this thing out. Give us time to work it out. And so that's why I said I think he came out. The timing had to be strategic. He didn't talk until he made the trade demand. All of a sudden, he comes out on a Monday. So it tells me he came out of the meeting, or his representation came out of the meeting feeling pretty good about where the two sides stand. And they're going to get this thing done. Whether it's this year or after this season, they're going to get it done. If he's basically told them, look, I want to be a long-term Tampa Bay Buccaneer, and if they feel that he's a cornerstone of that defense, then it's only a natural progression to take care of it. The way money's flowing across the NFL nowadays, I don't think it's going to be a problem in terms of what he's going to get paid. Now, maybe even the Bucks told him, look, you have been the rock of steadiness for this defense ever since you came into this league. Mm-hmm. We just want to see one more year. Now, we picked up your 5th-year option, which is for a big chunk of change. But we feel if we get halfway through the season and you're still that player, guess what we're going to do? We're going to tack on that extension for you. We'll give you money up front now, tack on an extension. That's all they want to hear.
Yeah.
You're not going to get guaranteed contracts, but you can get guaranteed money, And if front loading that contract is what he wants to appease him, then the Buccaneers identifying him as one of the cornerstones of the future of this organization, it's on them now to take care of this. And obviously he feels good about them holding them to their word, or whatever they told him. He feels pretty good about that organization giving him their word.
Yeah. And look, if we move forward here and there isn't any movement on that front, then I think it's going to get nasty with the two parties. But right now he is satisfied with where things are. And that's really all that matters, because let's face it, they're going to need that defense to carry them at least early, Gunner, because you don't know what kind of quarterback play you're going to get. You don't know how, what Baker Mayfield's going to look like, and or whomever else they throw in there as one of the Trask or, whatever that turns out to be. You're going to need that defense.
Sure you do. If you watch Baker Mayfield, you already know what you're going to get. You're going to get one game where he looks like a Pro Bowler, and the next game looks like he's trying to figure out how to put on his uniform. I mean, seriously, that has been his career in Cleveland. And when he was the small showing, I remember going back to last season, he comes off the bench for the Rams.
It was remember he got cut Monday and played Thursday or whatever. Yeah. It was crazy.
And he comes in and plays on a Thursday and brings them back and throws a winning touchdown pass in the final seconds of the game.
Yeah.
That's been his problem. You don't see that consistent Baker Mayfield. You see those moments where he's talked about the next day all across the country about, did you see what he did in this game? Did you see how he was able to buy time, make these throws? And then the next week, did you see how many picks he threw compared to how many interceptions he threw?
Yeah.
That's been his whole career.
Yep. Yeah.
And he's got the weapons. He's got the weapons down there, to make him look really good. And Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. Mike Evans is accidentally going to have another 1,000-yard season.
Yeah, he does that in his sleep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, beyond that, Derek, let's dig into our NFL question, and then let's look at the AFC East. So the AFC East is the Bills, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Patriots. All right. So last year, the Bills were the team, that obviously finished on top. And, we know that this is a critical season for them, but they were a team that took care of business last year. They had an excellent season. They did have a lot of stuff that went on. DeMar Hamlin, I'm sure, had to be tough. They finished the season winning 7 straight. They got into the playoffs. So did the Dolphins at 9-8. But we know their season was just kind of, marked with Tua getting injured, and you weren't sure exactly what was going to happen there with him. We still don't know what this year is going to look like. New England goes out and gets Bill O'Brien, made a couple other additions, haven't done a ton personnel wise that is going to blow you away. And then the Jets, of course, had a really loud offseason with Aaron Rodgers and some of the other stuff that they did. Okay. So you had a Bills team at 13-3, Dolphins 9-8, New England 8-9, the Jets 7-10. Give me your overall scope, and then we'll kind of dig into how we think these teams are going to finish.
You know what? As loaded as this division is, it's so many question marks pertaining to this division, and it kind of clouds your thought. You look at Buffalo. How much, if any, will they drop off from a team that won 13 games last season? They have all the weapons you want. They have Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis on offense. They've got 2 good tight ends in Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, who they drafted Kincaid. You got excellent defensive Ed Oliver, Von Miller. You have arguably the best safety tandem in the NFL in Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. If you can keep all those components healthy, if you can keep them healthy, they're going to be right up there again. You look at Miami, the big question mark: Can Tua stay off the IR list?
That's the biggest question of the entire division, as far as I'm concerned.
I love their personnel: Christian Wilkins, Emmanuel Agba. Xavier Howard's one of the best corners in the game. They have everything you want. Cedric Wilson doesn't get enough love. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Cedric Wilson.
Yeah.
One of the best trios in football in wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the Jets team. To me, as much as the Jets have been talked about since it was finalized and Aaron Rodgers was heading to the Jets, on paper, it's under the heading of this is too good to be true. You have an outstanding defense, a top 5 defense. You've added more weapons offensively for your franchise quarterback to throw to. Mm-hmm. It just looks too good on paper. The Jets defense carried that team, and the offense let them down. Now Joe Douglas has gone out and got firepower to have the offense uphold their end. Can it all come together? And how quickly can it come together? I just heard Aaron Rodgers basically loosely compare Garrett Wilson to Devontae Adams. He said, I'm not putting him in that category yet because Devontae is the best in terms of route running. But you see a lot of Devontae Adams and Garrett, okay? Now he's got to do it. The kid was the offensive rookie of the year. Can he do it with a new quarterback, a legit quarterback now this time?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You look at a team like New England. New England has great personnel, but the big question mark is the quarterback. Can Bill O'Brien do for Mac Jones what Brian Daboll did for Daniel Jones?
Yeah. Great comp.
It's great. It's huge. They got a good running back in that Ramondre Stevenson.
Yep.
Ty Montgomery is not a bad backup at running back. The wide receivers are okay.
Yeah, I don't love his weapons in general.
I love Devontae Parker when he was in Miami. All of a sudden, he's an afterthought in New England. He can't get him the ball. Now you have Juju there. You have 2 great tight ends in Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Judon is one of the best linebackers in the game.
Yeah.
But what's it going to look like? There's so many big question marks. But if you ask me to stack them, I'm still picking the Bills until further notice to win the division. It's not going to be a runaway like it was a season ago. But I think the Bills still have enough to win that division. Miami and the Jets are closing in on them.
Yeah.
I don't know how quickly the Jets are going to come together. So my number 2 team in that division, just by a blink of an eye, has to be Miami right now.
Yep. All right,
and the Jets goes third.
Jets third, and then New England fourth. Yeah. So I have a little flip there. I have the Bills like you do, but I went Jets too, and here's why. I don't. It's more of a reflection, and I this is not me wishing this, but I don't think Tua holds up, Derek. I just don't. And if that's the case, they did an okay job with their backups. Mike White's solid, but I think that vaults the Jets ahead of them if Tua goes down, and it looks like it did last year. So I'm going to go Jets. It's a bit of a stretch, I think, because there's a lot of new parts there, but it seems that Rodgers has really fit in there like a glove.
Yes.
You know, to the point where if I'm Green Bay, I'm kind of like, where was this when you were here? You know, willing to be like this mentor guy. But anyway, he's helped them there. He's got weapons. He has a good defense. And I think there's a desperation is probably the wrong word, but I think there's a real sense of urgency with this Jets team because of all the moves that they made, because they've taken some criticism. Sean Payton has leveled some criticism his way. You know, Rodgers is going to be on a mission this year. Although I think Miami's probably more talented. If Tua stays healthy, it's Miami number 2 firmly, but I don't think he stays healthy. So I go Bills, Jets, Dolphins, Patriots. I think New England's very similar to what they were last year. They're like an 8-9, 9-8, and it's not enough to get in.
I agree. And it all comes down to when you look at the other 3 quarterbacks in the division compared to, Mac Jones, I think they're better pedigree of quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers are probably going to be there from start to finish. Tua, the concussion scenario, it weighs heavily into how long he's in there. Mm-hmm. And Mac Jones, we don't know. We assume that Bill O'Brien can turn him around, but to what degree? New England has a stout defense, no question about that. The offense needs to hold up its end of the deal. Didn't do that last year, and understandably so. Buffalo took a big hit losing Dabo. And you could tell in the play of Josh Allen, he wasn't the same Josh Allen. Now it's year 2 for Josh Allen without Dabo, and he's identified what he needs to work on. All right, let's see him get back to that upper echelon level that he was in 2021, the more consistent Josh Allen. My biggest concern about Josh Allen is when he takes off the run, this dude doesn't want to slide. He goes head first. He's making contact. You don't want your contact lowering the shoulder and taking on somebody head on. He's got to do a better job in terms of sliding. Tua, I would like to see Tua roll out of the pocket more with the weapons that he has.
Yeah,
I think they keep Tua in the pocket too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's his biggest problem. That's where he gets into trouble physically, is by staying in the pocket. I want to see him move him around the way New Orleans did with Drew Brees. And the way, from what limited footage I've seen, you see Bryce Young taking deeper drops and moving outside of the pocket a lot to get a better view of what he's seeing down the field. Mm-hmm. I think Miami needs to do that with a smaller quarterback as well. You could tell that they've built Tua to be this pocket passer, and he's done a great job when he's in there. He can, for a guy who's not that big, he can throw it a country mile. He's got a great arm.
Yeah.
It's just that I think Miami has misutilized him in terms of if you want to keep him upright and breathing, you got to roll him out of that pocket more. You have to.
Well, I'm really interested and fascinated with Josh Allen because he has said all the right things this offseason about turnovers, red zone turnovers. I haven't heard him. He may have spoken about it, but I didn't hear him, talk about being smarter running the ball. But he's at the age now where he's taken enough shots, and I don't care how big he is. Eventually, this stuff that will take you down. I wonder how much he's learned from last year. I do. I wonder how much he's learned from, the mistakes that he made. There's got to be such a high sense of urgency to take care of that football. He takes care of the football. I mean, but they were still whatever they were. What were they? 13-3. They played one less game, right? So them in Cincinnati. So they were 13-3. If he takes care of that ball, man, it could be a different story. It could be a different story in the playoffs, and that stuff carried over. So, yeah, I am. Buffalo's at an impasse. The Jets are on the climb, but the thing is, it's not like the Jets have this giant window. You got a quarterback who's pushing 40. Even though he wants to be there for multiple years, so you got to take advantage of it pretty quickly. If you're the Jets, and then there's the Dolphins, and it's just tons of talent. To their credit, they went out and they made it work with the cap. They brought in a lot of weapons, but can the quarterback stay healthy?
Jets have a quarterback who's pushing 40, but still has one of the strongest and most accurate arms in the game.
Yep.
His biggest frustration is Green Bay never went out of its way to give him the players that he needed to be better. If anything, they shied away from a better caliber player and started implementing these young, untested players. And if I'm a veteran quarterback who's been there 8 years, to me, 18 years, to me, that's a blatant disrespect in Green Bay that you can put me on the field with this, to throw to. What do you expect me to do with this? The Jets say, hey, we welcome you with open arms. I think there's that sense of urgency with Aaron. He wants that one more moment in the sun to try to hoist that trophy. Now, unfortunately for him, he's in an extremely tough division and by far a tougher conference to get to where he wants to go to than if he was in the NFC.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 7-8 legitimate teams that could end up in the Super Bowl in the AFC if things fell into place. You know, and it's funny how Sean Payton, who's a coach who's not even a player, could completely turn that Denver team around just by his presence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've got the talent. Although I didn't even know this, they cut KJ Hamler because of that heart condition he had, giving him time off to get that thing right.
They lost him.
That's what I saw. That he was. They basically cut him. You know, a few weeks ago
man.
once that came out. And you lost the other receiver because of a ruptured Achilles, Patrick, I believe it was. But you have everything else to win. You can still be very good, you know. But it all starts with Kansas City and that division.
Absolutely.
And that's the division, the conference.
It's all about KC and Mahomes, man.
And Cincinnati. I mean, to be honest, it's all about KC and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Those are the two teams you have to beat in the playoff to get to where you want to go.
Yeah. Speaking of Cincinnati, we'll talk about one of their players who got paid, not named Joe Burrow, when we come back, in addition to everything else that we're doing NFL-wise. Don't go anywhere. He's Derek Gunn. I am Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I'm going to tell you about Flynn Tree Services. They are an experienced, licensed, and insured Pennsylvania tree services company that will trim or remove any unwanted trees off of your property. They're experts at trimming all types of trees, and they serve southeastern Pennsylvania, South Jersey, and northern Delaware. You go to their Facebook or Instagram page for more information or a sampling of their work. Give Flynn Tree Services a call at 610-850-2848, 610-850-2848, or online at flynntreeservices.com. That's flynntreeservices.com.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake a mom. Mama go up, mama!
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Come back in, everybody. He's Derek. I'm Rob. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. So the Eagles have made a little move here. Remember Matt Leo, who was just recent, who was cut in the off season, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was hired as a defensive and football operations assistant. So he is now on the coaching staff, Matt Leo.
So I think he officially retired.
Yeah. Okay. Is that what it was?
Yeah. But still wants to be a part of football in some capacity. And, here's again, the Eagles, they like to take care of their own, and, they're giving him a chance. Maybe they see something in him that has coaching quality, and they're willing to give him an entry-level shot at making that transition, which could benefit them down the road as they continue to lose coaches and make coaching decisions along the way.
Yeah. Good for him.
Good for him.
Yeah. All right. The Texans will be without one of their key offensive players for a while here. Right tackle Titus Howard has a broken hand. They don't know how long or if he'll be able to be available at any point here in the preseason. But so he's got a broken hand. He just signed a 3-year extension worth $56 million. He was a first-round pick in 2019. He started all 54 games his first 4 years in the league. That's a loss if he's out any extended period of time. That's a little troubling with a rookie quarterback, that's for sure.
Yeah. But these things happen, man. You just hold your breath every day. Unfortunately, and Houston's trying to rebuild an identity that's been trashed over the last several years. The embarrassment of firing 2 consecutive coaches after 1 year, the Deshaun Watson scenario. Houston is basically trying to focus on playing football, and they continue to have setbacks. That organization, man, I tell you, man, you talk about a team that has a dark cloud hovering over it, from front office gaffes, like the one you just talked about the last segment, to the Deshaun Watson fiasco, and now this, Yeah. I know they just want to focus on playing football, but injuries. I mean, it's a fluke. You don't expect to break a bone in the hand or foot. It just happens. It's again nature of the beast.
It is. It's random. A lot of randomness for sure. I know this. Rashawn Gary, who is coming off ACL surgery. He actually blew out his ACL in week 9 last year. Is off the PUP list, and he's ready to roll. He's set to take part in his first practice of training camp. He'll be doing individual work. He'll take part in walkthroughs, but full return to practice will come in a little bit. But he is getting very close, which is a good sign because, like I said, it was week 9. So he's doing well with his recovery. He's a big piece of what they do here for sure.
Well, he was their leading sacker until he got hurt. He was their best, pass rusher, and it showed because that defense was never the same. And with all the talent they had on that defense, they had 7 former first-round picks starting on that defense. And some fell by the wayside of injuries, but came back. He never came back, and it really showed in their pass rush. This is a huge year for Green Bay in terms of that defense and the defensive coordinator living up to expectation. Everybody thought Green Bay's defense would carry that team, and Green Bay's defense let them down more so than the offense did in a lot of ways last year. So hopefully he stays healthy for what they're trying to accomplish with a new quarterback under center.
Yeah, they need him. That's for sure. All right, we know that Sam Howell has been named the starter with Washington, but Ron Rivera has made it a point to get him some reps with the first team offense in case he needs to play. Now, you can read into in case he needs to play a lot of different ways, injuries, if, potentially Howell's not playing great, whatever the case may be. But that's a little unusual that you would do that. Usually, and Derek, you know how this works at practice, your ones get the large bulk. At least as we get closer, not this, it's a little different now in camp, but they're working Brissett in a little bit with the ones here just to have him, ready to roll.
The fact that they made the commitment already to Sam Howell as a starter is a little shocking to me. I wouldn't have told anybody anything. And to be quite honest with you, with the new offensive coordinator, I would give Brissett more than just a few reps with the ones. Because I would not have announced who my starting quarterback is until the week of the first game, to be honest. Nobody needs to know that, And with the way teams control practices now, you could hide a lot of things from the media. You get that limited window when you get to see certain things in some practices now under this collective bargaining agreement. they can shut you out even more so now from practices. Thanks to the collective bargaining agreement and COVID, the NFL teams have now found a new ways to show the media even less than what they want to see. I would no way in shape or form have named my starting quarterback right now. There's no way.
Yeah, like believe me, I understand where you're coming from. Why tip your hand, and that kind of thing. I get it. Is it more of a confidence thing? Like, hey, so we're not asked about this all the time to show Sam that we believe in him. Is it, you think it's that, why you do it that soon?
I don't know, to be honest with you, because I can't imagine that a young quarterback has shown me enough this early for you to already confirm that he's your starting quarterback. Is Brissett that bad in Eric Bieniemy's offense? We've seen Brissett have success other places he's been. Has he been consistent? No, but he's won some games. Mm-hmm. He's shown that he can handle pressure. I don't think you've given him enough time to prove to prove what he can or cannot do in your offense. How has Sam Howell shown you everything you need to know that he's the right guy for this offense? Especially for a head coach if you start stacking up coaches on a hot seat for 2023, I don't think there's any seat hotter than Ron Rivera's. Say what you want to say. Since he's been there, the quarterback situation has been a mess. Mm-hmm. You look at the carousel of quarterbacks he's had to go through since he's been there. And Sam Howell coming from out of nowhere, all of a sudden named your starter now. Mm-hmm. I don't get that. I really don't.
Yeah. I mean, it's if he doesn't play well, and it's going to cost Ron Rivera's job. That much is for sure. There is no doubt about that. All right. So Zach Martin is apparently dug in, Derek. He's not worried about fines. Reports have it that he will not start the regular season. That's when it gets real with the fines. That's when this goes into a different level, because right now teams can fine you. They don't have to fine you during the preseason. But once the regular season starts, you get it no matter what. That's a league thing.
I thought I read somewhere where he's being fined 50. What is it, 50,000 a day?
Yeah, that's what they can fine him up to. Yes, correct. Okay, so they can rescind it all if he decides to come back or whatever. Yeah. They can do that.
You're going to give us 50,000 a day plus a game check, and you're only making $7 million.
I'm not.
Not me. You know what I mean? I'm ticked off. If anything, trade me after the season.
Yeah.
Or trade me now, but I'm not giving up that kind of money.
Yeah.
I'm not recouping that money down the road.
The thought behind it is he watched them cave with Ezekiel Elliott. You remember Zeke was holding out and they caved. There was somebody else that was cited as well as another precedent here. And, I can't help but draw the parallel that he sees all these other Cowboys, Amani Hooker, guys who aren't at his stage and certainly importance to the team, getting paid, and it's probably pissing him off. Frankly, it's probably just making it worse.
I don't blame him one bit. But if the Cowboys are not going to buckle, then they feel they have somebody they can plug in. Obviously, number one. Number two, it's costing Zach more than it's costing the Cowboys in terms of money. $7 million. If he was making $17 million, that's a little different. You're making $7 million after taxes, after agent fees. You're lucky if you get half of that, and you're going to give up $50,000 a day for fines and game checks. No, not me. No, thank you. I understand. I'm ticked off. If I had to play under that contract compared to what other people are getting, I'm ticked off, especially if I'm identified as a perennial Pro Bowler, one of the best right guards in the game, then I should be paid accordingly. I'm going to voice my opinion, but I'm going to move on also. I'm not giving up money for nobody.
Yeah. Yep. Look, that stuff adds up, man, but he must know something. I can't imagine that he and his agent are just kind of doing this thing blindly, but we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening here. Logan Wilson got paid, linebacker for the Bengals. Good player, 4 years, $37.25 million. Had 123 tackles last year. Like I said, he is a really good linebacker for this team. So he ends up getting paid.
What a prime time to be playing in the National Football League. The money they're giving out nowadays at different positions, except the running back, it's unbelievable. You're right. He is a quality linebacker in the game. And if they gave it to him, obviously he deserves it. Man, If I'm Zach Martin, I'm not just ticked off at the Cowboys. I'm ticked off because every time I get up, somebody else is getting paid except me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. Think about the money that's been doled out since June to different players. No, let's go back even further. Start with the quarterbacks and look at how they've all leapfrogged over each other this offseason in payments. And then you look at the offensive linemen, the edge rushers who are getting paid. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. I'm one of the best in my position and I'm being overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm as ticked off as a hornet's nest. But again, when business sense, when you settle down and you allow business sense to kick in, monetarily, as much as I'm ticked off and as much as I've voiced my displeasure, whether I have said it first and foremost or indirectly through an agent or one of my close peers, I'm getting back out there and I'm playing. You know, I understand the risk of possibly getting hurt, but I'm going back out there playing. I'm not giving money away. No way. No way, shape, or form.
Panthers signed Justin Houston to a 1-year deal. He's 34 years old. Still productive, Derek. He got $7 million, but he had 9.5 sacks last year for Baltimore. That's a good move.
Yeah, good move for in terms of veteran presence. A guy who, you know, defies once you hit 33, 34, it's all downhill. He showed that it wasn't. You're looking at a Carolina defense that spent some money this offseason on defensive personnel. I think he's going to be a tremendous asset, both as a player and a mentor to that defense, and hopefully can help that defense hold it down until the offense gets up to speed with young Bryce Young back there.
Yeah, it's a good move there. Good move by them. Micah Parsons, he is never shy. So I think it was brought up to him about the Hall of Fame because the Hall of Fame was this past weekend, and we'll get into that in a second. But he said Hall of Fame. I don't just want to get to the Hall of Fame. I want to be considered among the greatest who have ever played. Forget just the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that loves that this dude is A, he'll say it, B, that's what he's striving for. But there's another part that's like, oh man, oof, okay. You better really go out there every game and every year and crush.
Well, if you say it, you believe it. But believing it and executing it, as we know, are vastly different. And you're right. You put it out there, and I do believe Micah Parsons is an animal. He's a beast, no question about that.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what he's using for motivation, by all means. Hey, Justin Jefferson, what did he come out and say last year? I'm going to be the best receiver in the game.
Yeah.
Look at the numbers he put up last year. Who was the number one receiver? Who was the number one receiver in the NFL last year?
Justin Jefferson.
He proved it. Micah Parsons feels that way. He was a defensive rookie of the year a few years ago, had another good season last year. Hey, by all means, good luck to you, because you know what? When teams now offensive scheme, they're scheming against you because they've identified you as their best defensive player. And let's face it, even with Stephon Gilmore there, Micah Parsons is the Cowboys' best defensive player.
Sure. And
teams are going to scheme for you. Now, you got to go out there and do similar to what you've done the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Vikings, this tells you about their depth situation because Rager's their number 3. N'Keal Harry, who has just never worked out as an NFL player. Never played up to the standards that you thought he was going to coming out of college. But the Vikings bring him in as the number 4 and has some depth.
Well,
that's a meh.
This is a guy who was a low first-round draft pick who has never really panned out in New England, and they got rid of him real quick. They gave him every chance. It's on him now. You look at the Vikings passing structure. It is a pass team first, no question about it. Plus, you have one of the best young tight ends in the game. You made the trade to get T.J. Hockenson from Detroit. You drafted Jordan Addison. Justin Jefferson is who he is. I can see Henry coming in there and supplanting Jalen Reagor as the number 3. What has Jalen Reagor done in his NFL career? If you want to talk about first-round bust, what has he done in his career? It's a great opportunity for Henry to go in there and make a name for himself. And you're with a quarterback, and I can't say it enough, who's one of the best regular season quarterbacks in the NFL, and Kirk Cousins. So he's going to get his touch. If he makes that roster, he's going to get his touches to showcase what he can do, what he hasn't done up to this point in his career.
Trevor Lawrence. I don't know if we knew this or not, but he's another one who's turned down the Netflix docuseries quarterback. Frankly, it doesn't feel like there's going to be a season 2 at this point, Derek.
Dude, these young quarterbacks today, they don't want you all in their business.
Yeah.
I don't want Rob Ellis knowing what I do away from the camera. Let alone the general public. Let the world into what you're all about. I don't want people to know that.
Yeah.
And if you look at the young quarterbacks who have turned it down, including Trevor Lawrence, what they've all said the same thing. At some point in my life, maybe that changes.
Yeah.
You know, they're married, few kids, they're settled into what they do. They become very boring individuals away from the camera. But right now, even in Jacksonville, you know, Trevor Lawrence, hot commodity everywhere he goes. He's under the microscope. We don't know what he likes to do in terms of letting his hair down, his long golden mane's down,
right,
just to relax and get away from the X's and O's and the aches and pains of the game. And maybe he doesn't want you to see that. I don't blame that for a young player.
Yeah, I don't either. Look, we talked about this. All 3 of those guys were married. They were all, you know, pretty settled in life-wise. You know, I probably didn't shine Mariota at the end in the greatest light in the world, and maybe team quarterbacks looked at that and said, I don't know about this. So I understand it. I really do. I'm surprised they wwere able to get 3 last year, but they did. All right, this is the Saints. Interesting here. Kareem Hunt and Anthony Barr working out. Kareem Hunt makes all the sense in the world. You're going to be without, we know this, Kamara for 3 games. Eno Benjamin got hurt also.
Yep.
They're super thin at running back. I would be shocked if this doesn't happen, if they don't close that. He doesn't get out of New Orleans without a contract.
I can see them signing Kareem Hunt quicker than they sign Barr. You know, Barr is a good linebacker, but his play has declined over the last couple of years. You put Kareem Hunt in that backfield with Alvin Kamara when he comes off suspension.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my goodness. You know, you talk about a 1-2 punch in running back. My goodness. You know, to go down there with Derek Carr and Chris Olave and Michael Thompson if he's back, and now you've got Kareem Hunt to go along with Alvin Kamara, that is a lethal offensive game plan.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah,
I think he could be a perfect fit down there.
Well, I think it'll fit in great. I mean, think about if you're Derek Carr, man, you'd be loving life. You would have so many, especially like you said, after Kamara gets back. That's real. I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on the offensive line and how they can hold up. But there won't be an excuse that he doesn't have enough weapons. He's going to have really good guys on the outside and behind him in the backfield.
And Kareem Hunt's coming off fresh legs. You know, he didn't take the abuse that Nick Chubb took last year.
Yeah.
And if Kareem Hunt, even if he goes there for 1 year, just to get there, get his name back in a conversation, and then parlays that into decent money, you know, that's a great fit for him. You know, an offense that's very diversified, a lot of movement in the offense. They love to use the running backs out of the backfield down there as pass catchers as well as runners. That's a perfect fit for Kareem Hunt. And he doesn't have to be the sole focal point running the football with Kamara back there as well.
Yeah. Speaking of the Saints, add them to the list of starters who are going to play at least a little bit in this first game.
Woo!
Derek Carr is going to start.
Well, he has to. I think he has to. You know, he's got to get on the same page with these guys. I don't blame him. Dennis Allen, it's a pivotal year for Dennis Allen down there. You know, and Derek Carr's got to get comfortable in Pete Carmichael's offense.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not surprised. I can't see them playing more than a series or 2. You know.
Oh, I'd be almost surprised if it's more than 1.
You know what? And with that said, I wouldn't be surprised if Derek Carr played in the first 2 or 3 preseason games for them.
Yeah.
You know, just to get them on page, get them up to speed, come out of the gate running in that wide open division down there.
So Aaron Rodgers has purchased a home in North Jersey, Montclair to be exact. Care to take a guess at what he plopped down for a nice little starter home for himself?
Let's see how Jersey robs you in property taxes and costs. I would say bare minimum $7.5 million.
9.5.
$9.5 million.
Now it's. I saw a picture of. I'll see if maybe Tone can find it. I'm giving this to him like on the fly. But there's a great view. Like it's right over the Hudson, I believe, from New York City. So you can see like the New York City skyline on the other side. Like in other words, if you were in Camden looking into Philadelphia, like you can see it from the other side. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool looking house, contemporary, very modern. Sweet. As you would expect. I mean, look, guy's making 33 this year. He can afford a $9 million house.
Look, and not only that, let's say Aaron Rodgers decided after 1 year to call it a career and move back to California. Just because Aaron Rodgers lived in that house, he will make at least a couple $1 million profit on that house.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Especially in North Jersey, where you have all that North Jersey money and New York money across the river, New York money as well.
Yeah.
People who want to get out of New York and move across the river to Jersey.
You want to see it?
Huh? Oh, my goodness.
So that's the front. Yeah,
Oh.
like that's sort of or maybe that is the backyard. I don't know. But there's Tone. I don't know if there is. Again, I apologize. I don't know where I saw it last night, but there's one view looking out of the living room, like across the Hudson, which was just pretty ridiculous. So
Dude,
yeah,
that's too much glass for me. I'm sorry.
yeah. There's not a lot of privacy unless
No.
that tints. I would assume it probably tints.
Well, I would say he has the privacy he wants. I would imagine that house comes with a good, maybe a couple acres of land.
I would agree, and a fence,
You know what I'm saying?
and a gate. Yeah,
Yeah, a gate. You know,
maybe a moat.
But in terms of just all that glass, especially when the sun is beating down into your house, you got to crank that AC. It's good. Look, from the point we can see, great views on two sides of the house. Put that up there.
Here you go. Check that out.
Are you kidding me?
That's pretty
you
sweet.
You sit in that chair right there all day and just look across the river. Yeah, that's a great view, but that's a lot of glass, man.
Yeah, Tone, good hustle. But yeah, that's a
Here we
pretty
go,
nice,
Tone.
Imagine just relaxing, kicking your feet up and just looking out the window, man.
Oh my goodness.
What else do you need to do? You get a dark room going, some ayahuasca, and look out to your great view that you have. Joe Mixon, we kind of figured that where this was going. There's a civil suit with that neighbor. This whole thing's been a mess.
Yeah.
There's always something that's kind of following Joe Mixon. It feels like, I'm sure he's going to end up paying a lot of money, and it's kind of thing that it's like, I don't know what went down. I have no idea who's at fault, whatever.
No.
But when you are an athlete with that kind of money, you are
Everybody
asking for trouble.
You're always open. You're always open to being sued for something, man. You could accidentally step on somebody's toe, and they may sue you. You hurt me. What? We've seen crazy lawsuits, not just filed, but won by some of the craziest things ever. And you're right. When you're a high-profile entertainer, and they figure you making a lot of money, somebody somehow is going to try to get a piece of it.
Hey, one other thing to keep in mind, and we obsess so, and I do. I'm like the leader of the pack with Sippos, but the Cowboys have all kinds of kicking issues.
Okay,
and they have now released Tristan Vizcaino. He's gone. The only other kicker on the roster is a guy named Brandon Aubrey.
Yeah.
After the release of him, I would admit you got a couple guys who are actually okay. They're old, but they're decent. Like Robbie Gould is still out there.
Yeah.
Mason Crosby, I know he's seen better years. He's still out there.
Yep.
But in 8 padded practices, Vizcaino has made 22 of 37. That's 13 misses.
Ooh. That's
yeah.
not good.
4 for 8 in the most recent Cowboys practice Saturday and missed 4 straight at one point. Aubrey was playing in the USFL with the Birmingham Stallions.
Wow.
He hasn't been great either. 26 of 35. 1 of 3 in end game situations. That's if Dallas doesn't get this straightened out or they have some unknown guy could bite him late games in a tight one for sure.
Well,
that's a great advantage Eagles have. You feel great about Jake Elliott.
Heck yes. Well, of the kickers of any notoriety out there, you mentioned 2 of them. Crosby's 32.
Is that all he is?
Yeah, Ryan Suckup. Now Ryan Suckup is 37.
Man,
he's still out there. Robbie Gould is 41.
I thought I would have said Mason Crosby's 38.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Correction. Mason Crosby's 39. 39.
Okay.
So your primary kickers you're looking at are 39, 37, and 41. And then there's Randy Bullock, who was kicker of the Titans last year. He's out there. He's 34.
Yeah. You start getting into that sort of vortex of these guys.
Yeah.
And Gold's had a great career. I would take Gold in a second. Yeah, I'm frankly surprised the Niners didn't let him go. He doesn't have the distance anymore, but he's accurate. But you also see Cowboys are going to go for it a lot.
Oh, heck yeah.
They're going to go for it a ton. I mean, that's the way the league's trending anyway, but they're going to go for it.
You would put Robbie Gould on the priority list even though he's 41?
Yeah, over Crosby, yeah. I think he's got more in the tank than Crosby does.
Oh, okay. All right, I don't know.
I
don't know about that.
Look, I don't love any of the options. Let me be clear. None of this is good, but it's actually real good. But none are good for the Cowboys.
Wow.
At this point. All right, so we'll hit it, Derek. We're going to come back. We'll circle back to some Eagles. We'll also look at the U.S. women's team that was eliminated, and some folks are retiring. A former White Sox player rips the culture of the team. Jose Ramirez drops Tim Anderson in actually a actual baseball fight that we saw. And like I said, we'll talk some Eagles as well. So you don't want to go anywhere. That's Derek. I'm Rob. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Right back.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
Score and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com. EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. All right, Gunnar, let's circle back to the big stories of the day. So yesterday, the Eagles cut Davion Taylor, and they signed Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham, 2 linebackers, and we talked a little bit earlier about it, when I did, and we talked to Chris Franklin about it as well. So you view this more of a reflection of just overall general lack of depth and the possibility that Nicholas Morrow could be in a little bit of trouble, more than it being a concern for Nakobe Dean.
Yeah, I think it's too early to critique Nakobe. He's basically a rookie, if you think about it. He's a rookie learning his way with a great upside. and he's calling the defenses. So there's a learning curve involved in here. They're going to give him a little bit more leeway. When you look at Amaro, he's been around. I mean, he came off a big year. Maybe identified, hey, this is not exactly what we're looking for, in the will position. And you bring in two guys who are much bigger linebackers, who've been in the league a little bit longer, who have had some success. Although I do have my concerns about Miles Jack's knee issue. When you hear the word degenerative knee, that means it's deteriorating. Now, how long can that knee hold up? I don't know, because the knee issue has been a problem with him for the last couple of years now. In Cunningham, Cunningham is a good run defender, but is okay as a pass defender. Now, what are they asking in this defense? What are they asking these linebackers to do? What is their focal point? Are they more concerned about having linebackers who are stouter against the run, or who are flexible in both areas, the run and the pass, or who are specialists in one? We can give up one aspect if we can get this. We don't know, because they're not going to tip their hand. But the fact that they delete one linebacker yet bring in two, depth issue, and I think there's some genuine concern about Mara on the outside. I think it's similar to Kazir White when they brought him in from the Chargers. Everybody's just salivating over Kazir White. First half of the season, he's playing like game busters all over the field. Then all of a sudden, he started fading down the stretch, even in the playoffs.
He was not great.
No,
and how much is that his size wearing him down? Yeah.
All the other players getting accolades even through the playoffs for their defensive prowess. He wasn't one of them. Why? And I wonder if they see that and if they've identified that. You're talking about two linebackers in Dean and Morrow, who go about 215, 220 maybe. And there has to be concerns. Run defense was a problem. If they get past our front line, what kind of linebackers do we have filling the gaps? Do we have linebackers that can shed blocks and make the plays? I don't know, But I think it's interesting they went out and brought two vets in and not just one.
Yeah. Yeah. That to me was okay, wake up time. And there could be changes on the horizon here. And, I don't think it's a coincidence that Christian Ellis has been getting as many reps as he's been getting. I think there's a reason for that. And again, the great part is the Eagles don't wait around. If they're seeing it's not good early, think about it. They're doing this before the first preseason game's even been played.
Right.
That's pretty quick.
Right.
And you can look at it one of two ways. Either they're rushing to judgment a little bit, or it's pretty obvious that they need some help.
You're right. And we won't know because they're not going to tell you. I mean, at least they waited until X amount of games into a season before they identified we need the cavalry to come in and help us in our run defense. And when they went out and got two of the biggest guys they could find to help stuff the run. And the run defense looked a lot different for a good stretch of the season. But then all of a sudden they started getting gashed again towards the latter part of the season, to where they were giving up 121 yards a game running the football.
And look, to give you an example. So Miles Jack, you talked about what the weight is on the other two guys. Miles Jack is 244.
Yes.
6'1", 244. So, certainly stouter in that sense. He was with Jacksonville from 16 to 21. He was a guy at UCLA. Remember, he played running back and linebacker.
Yes.
He was a big time talent, but he falls to 338 or third round, whatever he ended up being.
Miles Jack was drafted in the second round.
Okay.
He was rated the best linebacker coming out of the draft he was in, but he ended up being, I believe, the fifth linebacker taken in his draft for whatever reason. And there was a lot of concern after he went through, a combine and all the teams, probed and prodded him and tested the knee. There was concerns about his knee, and that's why he dropped in the draft behind a number of other linebackers,
Yeah, and to his credit, he's been, pretty durable. If you look at it, 16 games his rookie year, second year, third year, 11 games in 2019, 14, 15, 15. Yeah, he has missed some time for sure. He started 13 games last year for the Steelers. 104 combined tackles, 61 solo, 3 tackles for losses. He got to the quarterback once. He's been a good player. He's not been an outstanding player. And, he is only 27. He came to the league at 20.
Yeah.
Very, very young when he came into the league. So, I don't know that he's done by any stretch. I don't know that that's the case, but you just wonder just what is the production level. Well, and you raise a great point. What is Pittsburgh doing getting rid of him? Now, Zach Cunningham, on the other hand, he's started out his career in Houston. So he's there for the first, 4 years. Then he ends up getting moved in 21 to Tennessee. He got cut after 6 games last year.
Yep.
That's not a great sign.
No.
And again, he's not old either. He's 20. What is he? 28.
He's 28.
Yeah, he'll be 29 in December. Yeah.
You look at Miles Jack. His first year of his career, he started out as a sandbacker.
Yeah.
The very next season, they moved him to the mic. Now, was that because he couldn't do it from the outside? Is he stouter in the middle against the run? But you have Nakobe Dean here, who's grooming to be the inside linebacker. So where does Miles Jack play? Is he the will?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's an interesting move in terms of how they're going to what they see in him, what they've identified in him that could help him. Who knows? There's no guarantee that either one of these guys can make the roster, or both will make the roster for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
There's no guarantee. I assume one will make the roster for sure. And I think Miles Jack has a better chance of making a roster than Cunningham. But, as we continue to go forward, who knows? There's so many question marks with this linebacking situation. We don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, the thing is, I would imagine, and I'm sure we'll get the details of this. First of all, neither one are making a whole lot. And secondly, if Nicholas Morrow's deal is not guaranteed, then I can't imagine either one of these 2 deals are guaranteed. So you can get out of this relatively easy.
Well, didn't they sign Jack to a 2-year deal or 1-year deal?
Was Jack 2?
What, I don't know. I thought I saw 2.
I don't know. I thought it was 1.
But the money
worth up to 2.5 each.
Okay.
To get a little higher with incentives.
Okay. So obviously they have a better projection of Miles than they do of Cunningham. And I think, I think that's a big red flag, the fact that Cunningham was cut after 6 games. Why? Why was he cut?
Mm-hmm.
He's had a measure of success. He's still in the prime of his career at 28.
Right.
He's had some injuries, okay, but what player doesn't? What is it about him that Tennessee said, thanks, but no thanks? We see what we've seen enough. We know what we need to know.
Yeah, that to me, that's more like if Miles Jack is here in a break glass in case of emergency role, okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. But this gets back to the bigger point. Just because these guys are here right now doesn't mean there isn't more coming.
True.
More that's going to be happening.
Where? We don't know.
Well, that's where they could come in for a trade too.
Right, exactly. With Howie, we don't know what they're thinking. Chris brought up a good point. Concerns at the safety spot. Are they looking at some of the free agent safeties out there and possibly bring them in on an organization-friendly deal? Just because Terrell Edmonds is here doesn't necessarily mean he locks down that spot. You don't want to rush Sidney Brown too soon. There is a learning curve there with Sidney Brown. Reed Blankenship. How happy or dissatisfied are they with Reed Blankenship?
Yeah.
We don't know.
No.
No,
we don't. And I think if you're still talking about most likely to happen at a position, it's one of those 2 positions, right? Without
has to be.
I mean, the only other, I don't even think they would do this. Would you consider bringing in another receiver? I don't think so, but
let's see. Sirianni brought in a guy he's familiar with from the Colts. That didn't work out too well. You're bringing in a guy who's 5'8". Quez Watkins, huge question mark. I don't know. They might, Rob.
I would watch that one. That's definitely one to keep your eye on for sure. All right. U.S. women's team, Derek, eliminated from the World Cup. Highly disappointing. They were the favorites going in. You could kind of see this building with them. They weren't able to score a whole lot. They had 3 goals against Vietnam, who other teams were beating like 7-0 and 9-0, etc. They didn't do a whole lot there offensively. They had 1 other goal on a header, and they lost in penalty kicks and were eliminated by Sweden in that game. They had 4 goals in 4 games, so they weren't scoring anywhere near at the level that they needed to score, and they're out. And there's a lot of criticism of their coach, a lot of criticism of the players. Julie Ertz is retiring. Megan Rapinoe is done as well. So they're going to lose some pieces here, for sure. But they're out, and this was highly disappointing for a lot of folks. I didn't see it. I was at 5 a.m. Sunday morning. I didn't see it.
There's so much to the backstory of what they didn't do about this. They didn't have some of their key players because of injuries. There was reports out there that the coaches, decision makers made poor decisions in terms of how the roster was constructed.
Right.
Certain players playing out of position. Julie Ertz didn't play the position that she thought she was going to play. So on and so forth. You had a lot of question marks going into the Cup tournament play, and coming out even more so now about how poorly this was all put together. And now you're talking about players who were retired. Obviously, there was a lot of frustration for players who announced this quickly that they're retiring from the game. There's a lot of frustration as well. Maybe they just took certain teams that were going to play for granted and got caught.
Yeah. Well, Carly Lloyd was very critical after they got in on that 0-0 tie, right? And she got a lot of backlash from her former teammates on the team, et cetera. But and then she kind of walked it back a little, but I give her credit. She wasn't afraid to speak her mind, and she did. And she laid into them pretty good. Her concern was, you barely won the game to begin with, and you're on the field kind of dancing around, taking pictures, celebrating. Yeah. And she didn't like the approach. So, I would guess, what often happens is the coach is the one who takes the brunt, and he'll be bounced. He won't be coaching them, going forward.
Right.
I believe the Olympics are in 2 years, so they're going to have to get their act together. They need more scoring punch for sure. I wonder what they do with Alex Morgan, who was very quiet during this too. So I don't know. Could be a tough one to see. All right, the fight heard around the world. So Jose Ramirez and Tim Anderson on Saturday. So Ramirez slides in sort of between the legs of Anderson, and he was sort of looking for like helping him up, like a hand. All right, pull me up. Anderson wouldn't do it. They start jawing. All of a sudden, the glove drops, and they square up.
Like hockey, man.
Yeah, and they square up. And then they kind of go at it a little bit. Looked like Anderson may have landed something on Ramirez, and then Ramirez got him really good. And Anderson went down. Everybody goes crazy. Benches start to clear, the whole 9. And then it turns into insanity. But it was like I said earlier, it's one of the few times we actually really had something, and it wasn't just, guys being held back. It was pretty interesting, I got to tell you.
You realize now the embarrassment Anderson has to endure from his fans and his peers.
Oh yeah,
it's that line from the movie Friday. You got knocked the bleep out.
And he's a talker because he was yapping throughout the game with one of their rookies too.
Dude, that thing went viral. That thing went viral so quick it wasn't even funny. And so now he's got to live with that for the rest of the season. You can't go into hiding now, buddy. You still got a lot of baseball to play. But you're right. I haven't seen a brawl like that in quite some time, man. And when you think about what led to it, it was trivial at best. It wasn't like going back and forth, pitchers hitting batters and other team retaliating. It was something basic you see all the time.
Yeah.
Unless there's a backstory that they have some history we don't know about, some tense history between them that we have not heard about yet. But dude, I have to say, from a fan perspective, man, that was funny to watch.
Yeah, it was funny. All right. Beyond that, so this was I guess not shocking when you look at their record. But the White Sox have had a miserable year. That's for sure. It's just been bad on so many levels. But so they traded away one of their relief pitchers, Kenyon Middleton, got traded to the Yankees.
Yeah,
man, did he tee off on the White Sox. So they're 45-68 under first-year manager Pedro Grifol, who took over for Tony La Russa, right? And Middleton said, quote, "We came in with no rules. I don't know how you police the culture if there are no rules or guidelines to follow because everyone is doing their own thing. Like, how do you say anything about it because there are no rules? You have rookies sleeping in the bullpen during the game. You have guys missing meetings. You have guys missing PFPs, that's pitcher fielding practices, and there are no consequences for any of this stuff. And according to ESPN, they corroborated what Middleton said with guys on the team. So it's not like this is just some guy who's ticked off and popping off. Like, apparently it's real. And I don't know, probably doesn't bode well for this guy who's in his first year as their manager. He might be going bye-bye, I would guess.
I was going to say he could be out the door real quick. I mean, that explains why they're 23 games below sea level and 14 games out of first place and minus 94 in the run differential. Yeah. You know, if it's basically the inmates are running the asylum, it could be another Nathaniel Hackett situation all over again. Yeah,
you're right. It's a good comp. It's a good comp.
And when a former player can't wait to spout off about the culture or lack thereof, from an organizational standpoint, it's embarrassing enough we're going through the season we're going through. And now a former player he barely got the other team's jersey on. And he's already spouting off about what was lacking in his previous stop.
Yeah.
The first place I'm starting, the fall guy has to be the manager in this case.
Yeah. And the GM's going to wear it too, I would think. All right, birthdays. You ready? Ready to do some birthdays?
Let's get to the birthdays.
We're going to start with a big one here. The oldest 25-year-old on the face of the earth, Jalen Hurts. The most mature man at 25 that's ever lived, Jalen Hurts. Yes, he's only 25.
Old man Hurts. Yeah,
yes.
Old man Hurts. Okay.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, are you kidding me? I couldn't even tie my shoes when I was 25. This guy's unbelievable. All right, so happy birthday, Jalen. Harold Perrineau, who is an excellent actor in a lot of different stuff. I loved him in Lost, but he's been in a lot of different things over the years. He is 60 years old today. All right, I'm going to throw a name at you, and you tell me if you recognize the name. Carl Switzer.
Ooh, why should I know that name? I'm not gonna, because of time, I'm not gonna sit here and him and Haw fill in the blanks.
All right, this is really old school. Okay, he was Alfalfa in the Little Rascals.
Know that. Yes.
Unfortunately, died very young. It was ugly. It was tragic. It was just bad. But anyway, he was born on this day.
His claim to fame is Alfalfa, but he was in other prominent movies like It's a Wonderful Life and White Christmas.
Yeah, he may have had a career, but things went sideways for Alfalfa in real life. All right, he was born in 27. Lee Corso, still doing it at ESPN at 88 years young. Man. Charlize Theron, 48.
Go ahead and say it. Go ahead.
Wrong. Mike Trout, 32 years old. Man, I can't believe he's in his 30s now.
Yep.
Sidney Crosby.
One of your favorite players to hate.
Oh, 36. What a career. He is a great player. DeMar DeRozan is 34 years old. Michael Shannon, good actor, is 49 years old today. David Duchovny, X-Files fame, 63 years old.
Well, that dude's had a weird lifetime away from movies.
Yeah, he had some addictions that weren't substance.
Yeah.
Wayne Knight. He may not know the name, but you know who he is. He's Newman from Seinfeld.
Yep.
He is 68 years old today. Our guy Kyler Murray, 26. How about Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts sharing a birthday?
Yeah, the Energizer Bunny.
So they're only a year apart. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, they because he was a year ahead of him in Oklahoma. Francesca Eastwood, who is one of Clint Eastwood's children. She is 30 years old today. Maggie Wheeler, the actress. She was in Friends and some other stuff. She's 62.
She was Janice. Remember Janice?
With the annoying laugh, like the nasal. Yeah. BJ Thomas of the singer. Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, Derek.
Yep.
He was born on this day in 1942.
I feel that way now.
Yes. Well, it's kind of a weird day, right? Is it raining now?
It was raining about 2:00 in the morning. It was coming down pretty good.
It was coming down hard. Beyond that, Tobin Bell is 81 years old. Don Larson, How about this guy, Don Larson?
Yep.
Back-to-back no-nos.
Right.
In 1929, or no-hitter in a perfect game in a playoff game. Alan Page, the great Alan Page of the Vikings.
Yep.
78 years young today. All right, what else do you have?
Mata Hari, the former Dutch exotic dancer who was executed for being a spy. Was born on this day in 1876. Bruce Dickerson, the lead singer from Iron Maiden, 65.
Okay.
Jimmy Wales, the co-founder of Wikipedia.
Yes, that's a good one.
57. Billy Burke, who played Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, in the original Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Was born on this day in 1884.
Jeez.
Nicholas Ray, director of the movie Rebel Without a Cause, was born on this day in 1911. Hans Matheson, Clash of the Titans, 300 Men, Rise of an Empire, the movie 300, which I love, 45. Deshaun Gibson, safety for the Niners, 33.
Yep.
Former Major League great Edgar Renteria. Remember that name?
Edgar Renteria. Yep.
Great shortstop. 7 times he played 7 different teams. You know, 5-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove, 48. Fred Brown, former the guard for Seattle Supersonics, who happened also to be from the great city of Milwaukee.
Downtown Freddie Brown. Yep.
75 on this day.
Okay. All right. Let's go movies, and then I'll give you the Phillies lineup for tonight. Unforgiven.
Yes.
Clint Eastwood, Morgan Freeman, one of the all-timers, 1992. Fantastic Four, 2015.
Yep.
We're the Millers, 2013.
I love that movie.
Very funny. Jennifer Aniston.
The scene where the tarantula gets on that guy's. Let me see.
Julie and Julia, 2009. Who's That Girl? Madonna, 1987. What else do you have?
Percy Jackson, Sea of Monsters, 2013. Spy Kids #2, 2002. Three Ninjas, 1992. And G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. I like that movie. Was 2009.
Okay. All right. Let me give you the lineups for the Phillies tonight. All right. Kyle Schwarber leads off. He's DHing. Alec Boehm, 2-hole, playing third. Bryce Harper's at first tonight, not DHing. Batting cleanup is Nick Castellanos in right field. Bryson Stott hits fifth at second. JT Realmuto catching today, batting sixth. Seventh is Trey Turner at shortstop, so he will bat seventh. Nick Cave gets to start in left field. He will bat eighth, and batting ninth, Johan Rojas. He will play center field. Ranger Suarez on the hill for the Phillies. He's been kind of a little up and down lately, Derek. They need him to get right again. Just get back on track.
I agree.
He's a big piece of this thing.
Hopefully they get this game in tonight. There's talk about the possibility of 2 thunderstorms moving this way this evening.
Yeah, like I was looking at it earlier, and it's going to hit like looks like 8, 9, and 10. Yeah.
Well, what time does the game start? 6:40?
6:40.
Well, maybe they can get one of these speed games in.
They could. If they fly, they maybe could get one in. But yeah, that's the forecast does not look all that promising. It's been a weird day. Like you said, we got a lot of rain last night, and then kind of overcast, today, and foggy. It's just sort of
now the sun's out shining brightly.
Oh, you got sun now. Yeah, I'm still in the.
What are you at?
I'm overcast still. Yeah,
I got
not terrible.
Yeah, I got sun here. So
okay, all right. Eagles practice again tomorrow, so they'll have 3 straight practices, which will take you up to Friday.
Yeah,
and then I'm sure Friday will be a walkthrough, and then they have the game on Saturday at Baltimore. And I'll be keep my eye on what rookies get some time. What guys who we're talking about here, will they work Miles Jack into things? Will they work Zach Cunningham into things? The veterans, just to get them, some hits and get them acclimated to football again. So we'll see. And the Phillies 4-game set, all 6:40 starts with the Washington Nationals. Even though they played good of late, you should still be able to take care of business against that team. That's for sure. All right. I want to thank Tone DeShields. Tone, excellent job as always producing the program. Thank you, Tone. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Awesome job. Funny stuff as always. And everybody streaming, everybody listening. We appreciate you as always. All right. Derek and I do it again. Same time tomorrow. Same bat time. Same bat channel. He's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. Don't go anywhere. We got 3 hours of the National Football Show with Dan Sileo. So everybody have a great rest of your Monday, and we will see you on Tuesday. Thanks.
Peace out.